It's time for TWiT, This Week in Tech. Oh, I love this panel. A brand new member of the panel, Keith Shaw's here from Today on Tech, IDG's podcast. We've also got Louise Matsakis. She's back from Semaphore.com, and old friend Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit. We'll talk about an end of an era. The red envelope says bye-bye. Then Mark Zuckerberg's mom and dad talk to brew in the kitchen. And finally, the Microsoft apocalypse no one is talking about. All that and a lot more coming up next on TWiT.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 947, recorded Sunday, October 1st, 2023. Speaking of the Roman Empire, This Week in Tech is brought to you by Stamps.com. Get your business ready for the holiday rush. Sign up with the promo code TWiT for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, free postage, and a free digital scale. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code TWiT. And by ZipRecruiter. Good news. If you're hiring, you've got help. ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter works for you to find great candidates fast. Its smart technology identifies qualified candidates for you, and you can invite your top choices to apply. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TWiT. And by Collide. Collide is a device trust solution for companies with Okta, and they ensure that if a device isn't trusted and secure, it can't log into your cloud apps. Visit collide.com/TWiT to book an on-demand demo today. And by Nareva. It's a first. Nareva's new Pro Series, the HDL 310 for large rooms and HDL 410 for extra large rooms, gives you uncompromised audio in systems that are incredibly simple to set up, manage, and deploy at scale. Learn more at nareva.com/TWiT. It's time for TWiT, This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. Got a great panel for you. I always like seeing Dr. Father Professor Robert Ballecer. You have how many degrees, Robert?
It's been so long since I've used them. I think it just restarts, right? It just flips over like
They clear. After 10 years, they clear. But you have at least a couple of masters, right?
I got a couple, yeah. We kind of collect them. It's our thing.
Father Robert Ballecer, SJ, he is the digital Jesuit, joining us from his Erie, his Eagles lair high above Vatican City.
This is the Fortress of Solitude, where if we had managed to meet up while you came to Rome, you could have broadcast from inside of
It makes me so sad. You are in my favorite city. I mean, I adore Rome. I know you kind of are indifferent to all the... I don't think you're into the history of it. Is that it?
I'm not, yeah. So it's wasted on me. I know there's a lot of beauty about me. I just don't care.
You know that American
I see
men...
old buildings and I think about how I can fix them.
You're the tech guy.
They're all built, they're all messed up.
Not the ruins guy. Yeah.
You know that American men think about the Roman Empire on average twice an hour.
I did. That's a new one for me, but I will use that at the next time I'm at table with Pope Francis.
I'll show you. This is from the New York Times. Are men obsessed with the Roman Empire? Yes. Say men.
What?
Women are asking...
You haven't heard this joke?
This is Louise. Let me introduce Louise before we get into this conversation. Louise Matsakis is here from Semaphore. Is it a joke, Louise, or is it true?
I mean, like, I think it started as a joke and it's true, but I don't think there's like some deeper meaning to it. It just became this joke where women would film their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever and ask, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And they were shocked at how often their responses were. It was like, weekly, I would say at the bare minimum. I will say though that I asked my boyfriend and he said not very often. So there are outliers.
It's funny because I had just come back from Rome. I had just read a long, really good history of the Roman Empire. I have on my shelf in my office The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. I hadn't really thought about this, but I probably do think about the Roman Empire several times a week at least. I thought this was kind of weird, but yeah, it started as a joke, but I think it's now become fact. or at least affect.
Yeah, I live in the remnants of the Roman Empire, and I don't think about it every day. I mean, what's going on with people? What's up with men?
I thought it was hold on, I'm going to jump in. I thought it was a TikTok or Instagram thing that people were.
It started that way.
Did it start that way? And,
let's
and
say hi to Keith Shaw. He is the internet's tech guy, sort of.
Yeah,
sort of. Host of IDG's Today in Tech. Every single day you do a show?
No. You see, that's one of the misnomers of the show is that we call it Today in Tech. But I'm up to about 3 shows a week.
Way too many.
Usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That's exhausting.
Well, we do a little tricks. We have little tricks. We're not as long as you guys are.
Yeah, that's.
In terms of
you know what?
The length of
Can
the
I
podcast.
just say, no one in their right minds, even Joe Rogan, isn't as long as we are. Just I don't know how this happened, but perhaps they haven't warned you. You'll be here for a while. Just get comfortable.
I got the window, and then my eyes bugged out a little bit, and then I had to get rid of my family for the 3 hours.
Yes, that's what we like all of our hosts to do is just get rid of their families. In a post, this is the New York Times. In a post shared on social media, women have been asking the men in their lives how often they think about ancient Rome. Constantly, one husband responded, like every day, said a boyfriend. As of Thursday night, a thread on X. And as everybody has to, formerly known as Twitter, went on like this for MDCLXXIX messages, 1,679 messages. I think it is kind of a joke, but
also maybe not.
Maybe not.
I mean,
maybe not.
I think the key with it was, though, if you asked okay, from approximately what years did the Roman Empire rise and fall? Just crickets. What were some of the big, reasons for its downfall? No answer from any of the men. So I think that they're thinking about gladiators and gold armor. They're not thinking about specifics.
They're not thinking.
Okay, Louise, that just made it worse. Seriously. If they were thinking about history, that'd be one thing. But I mean, if we're talking about gladiators and togas, now I'm more concerned.
When you go to Rome, as I did in April, and missed you, I'm sorry, there are people dressed up as Roman soldiers with rubber, sandals and stuff, and they'll pose for you for a few sesterces. They'll pose for a picture with you. So, I mean, I could see.
Fun fact, those are all nuns.
What? Okay. Hey, this is normally I put the obituaries at the end of the show because it's sad and we don't want to have people be sad. But this is kind of a sad weekend. On Friday, Netflix sent out the last red envelope. Aww.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun. The disc mailing business ended with the end of the month. So I guess it was yesterday. Have any of you subscribed? Louise, you're probably too young to remember the red envelopes. Any of you subscribed to the red envelope version of Netflix?
Yeah, I did in the early days. You'd have the 3, I think. You could get
up to 5 if you spent, it depended on your subscription. And I would have 5 dusty red envelopes in the back of my TV cabinet, and I'd go, oh God, I got to return these. But I haven't watched it yet.
I had a system, Leo. I could do the 3 a week or 3 at a time.
Oh, you'd rip them,
and I could get 3 sets a week because I would rip them as soon as they came in and send them back out.
Yeah.
So, after a month of the subscription, I could stop for a few months because I've got 60 movies on my hard drive.
There's an interesting point to be made here, though, besides the end of an era that, began in many cases for us, the digital era. With the death of DVDs and the death of Netflix DVDs, the number of movies you can watch has shrunk dramatically. The DVDs had a long tail. There was pretty much any movie you wanted that everything that had ever been put on DVDs certainly was available from Netflix. Now, with Netflix being streaming only, they're down to 22. Let's see. The average video store had between 1,500 and 2,500 titles. HBO Max, formerly HBO Max, has 2,200 titles. Netflix has just about 1,500 titles. So while it's more convenient, I mean, you could always find something to watch. you can't find everything watchable. And I think that's kind of bad news.
I totally agree. I think this is the great sort of tragedy of the streaming era, is that you were supposed to have unlimited variety, right? And that these things are supposed to last forever. And now you see that every month there's, an article from the entertainment trade magazines that say, here's everything that's leaving Netflix this month. Here's everything that's leaving HBO Max this month, right? And yeah, I think that's sad that we don't really have this endless library. That was the promise, right? And now you basically just have the lower end of a video store if you're a Netflix subscriber only.
And what do you do if you're a movie buff and you want to see, a movie that is just not available on streaming? I guess you could still buy a DVD of it, but that's not going to last much longer.
Yeah, Leo, there was an ad in the probably mid '90s from. Do you remember the AT&T ads where they were talking about building out their network?
You will.
Yeah. And one of those was, you will be able to order any movie on demand whenever you want it. And there was a bunch of kids that were coming over and they're like, yeah, let's watch a movie. And that promise did reach us at one point, but now it does feel like it's going away. When Paul Reubens died, remember
Pee Wee
Herman? Yeah,
of course, yeah.
I was feeling sad because I'm a big fan of Pee Wee Herman, and I was like, I haven't watched Pee Wee's Big Adventure in a while. Let me go see if I can. Well, I tried to find my DVD, and that was an experience of forget it. I'm not going to try to find out where my DVD is. Didn't have it on any of the streaming services that I subscribe to, so I ended up just going to Amazon, the Prime Video, and finding out that I could rent it or buy it for $5. So I ended up doing that and watched the movie. So now I technically own that movie.
Yeah, but as we know, you don't. Yeah, in fact,
Yeah.
I bought a movie from Apple. I won't say which, and a movie I loved and there was a scene in there I really loved. It was gone because they decided to edit that part out. And that's the way that movie is going to persist, not because of the director, but because somebody at Apple decided, well, we don't even want that sexy scene. And it was gone.
Well, we've also seen a glitch in the consolidation. I had several dozen movies that I had purchased on different platforms, like Movies Anywhere or the Paramount one that was before Paramount Plus. And slowly they started consolidating them. And some of the services, they just outright stop. So you purchased it in perpetuity and it's gone. So I think, as we get more consolidation, not only are we going to see movies disappear from the ether, but we're also going to see moves like what Amazon did. They bought MGM. That's over 4,000 movies, 17,000 TV show episodes. And people thought, this will be great for Prime. Now they have all this content. But what did they do? They put all of that content behind another paywall. It's another channel inside of Prime. So even though we've got several organizations now that have these huge catalogs, I think they're all going to be following the Amazon model, which is we're going to squeeze every dime we can out of you, especially for the nostalgia content.
So for those who don't remember the You Will commercials, this was AT&T, Ma Bell. I mean, they really were still kind of the dominant company talking about the future. You can watch. This is the one you were talking about.
Have you ever watched a movie you wanted
my
to
goodness.
the minute you wanted to? Learn special things.
That's all taken from jazz.
Know any questions? From faraway places.
Oakland?
So where did jazz come from?
Good question.
I remember this one.
Or tucked your baby in. From a phone booth. You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T.
Yeah, maybe not.
Well, at some point, but not now.
That was that 1993? I think it was. It wasn't even that long ago. And we did think this was kind of what it was going to look like. But now that we're here, it's not quite the same.
Well, the concept is still there, but yeah, the companies that are bringing it to you and the methods of watching it are changing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You mentioned DVDs not going to, that they kind of went away. I still have a whole bookshelf downstairs in my basement with a bunch of DVDs, and I'm holding on to them just for this reason.
But how will you play them?
I can still play them on my PlayStation.
Yeah, so, not much longer. We saw in the Microsoft memo leak that the future Xboxes will have no slots.
Well, I hold on to all of my old gaming systems so that I have that DVD
That's
player.
Your DVD player.
Blu-ray player.
we were at a concert. We were at a Motley Crue concert, and they were selling their new CD, going through the stands, and we bought one just kind of support them, but we had no way to play. We had nothing. We couldn't. There was no way to play it. It's like, well, thanks for the piece of plastic. I'll just stream it from Spotify, I guess. Okay.
Well, so Leo, you know how vinyl came back, right? Vinyl came back.
I was at a record store the other day in Napa, California. Yeah. There was a record store. They had music playing. They had coffee. And I browsed the records. They're $50. There's Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, $39.99. I was like, what the hell?
That's why I'm holding on to all my old mini discs, because at some point it's going to come back around and they're going to be retro and authentic.
And keep your zip disk drive, because you'll never be able to read those zip disks without it.
Oh boy, yeah, I did get rid of those, but there's a lesson there to hold on to the hardware that you have, because at some point it might make a comeback. And my youngest daughter is 14, and she loves listening to music on CDs, even though she's got the Spotify subscription, the family plan. We've got all that. She's like, there's something about the experience of either listening to a CD or a vinyl that she's not getting from just the digital nonstop music that she usually.
An interesting statistic. This is Sam Adams writing in Slate. Kind of an interesting statistic. Researchers found out that the more movies were available, it decreased demand for all movies. This is completely counterintuitive. In 2018, researchers found that increasing the number of available movies by 1,000 titles decreased the market share occupied by the bottom 1% of DVDs, the long tail, by more than 20%. Faced with even more options, people just gave up entirely. When instead of 20,000 DVDs, you could choose from 50,000 or 100,000 or a million, demand for all movies goes down. People go, it's too much. Let's.
I mean, that's game theory, right? I mean, they just described what game theory is, except now it's for content.
Too many choices.
The more options you have. Yeah, too many choices, and you're going to decrease the value of all the available choices.
So if you wonder why Netflix would, even though they could probably very easily have every movie on demand, why they don't, that's why. It's already, Netflix by itself is already overwhelming with just a few thousand titles.
I could see that happening. I've spent some time on my couch where I will scroll through the choices of the services, and I've got 5 or 6 different services just to try to find something to watch. And I spend 20 minutes just scrolling through looking for something to watch, when in reality I probably just should have picked something that I hadn't watched, or I go to YouTube and then go down that rabbit hole.
Netflix, according to Adams, does not reveal how many movies are on the service at any given time. Estimates put it at fewer than 4,000, which is less than 5% of the number of DVDs they offered back in the days of the red envelope. I wonder if what's going to happen is all the people like you, Robert, have you saved everything you digitized?
Everything. I have literally tens of thousands of movies, because we have tens of thousands of DVDs at our headquarters in Los Gatos. They've all been ripped, and I have copies. So
storage is cheap, safe. Right? And you could have a Plex server. Super cheap. So I wonder if ultimately what's going to happen is there'll be a kind of a community of people like you who put, because with Plex you can make it public, right? You could put those online.
Correct.
And all the titles will just be, but now that's going to make the movie industry crazy, because they're not going to make any money off of that.
I mean, yes and no. The number of people who are actually tech savvy and or motivated enough to do that is minuscule.
It's not going to cost them sales because you can't buy them.
Correct. Yeah.
So, it's what a world. It's part of the way the world is changing dramatically these days. By the way, speaking of movies, good news: the Writers Guild strike looks like it's over. They have to technically they have to approve it. But the late night shows come back tomorrow night, according to my calendar. The strike went for 146 days. SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, is still on strike. The proposed 3-year contract still has to be ratified. It would boost pay rates and residual payments. But the key for many was rules around AI.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of
streaming residuals. Yeah.
To me, the big story was streaming residuals, because you can write an episode of Friends, but your residuals are based on how many times it plays on terrestrial television, right?
Correct.
Right.
Not how many times somebody streams it from Netflix or whatever it is these days. Anyway, I'm glad that that's been settled. That's great. We'll see what happens with SAG-AFTRA. They probably, I imagine, will move those negotiations along. I'd be a little more worried about AI these days. Did you see, Louise, did you see Lex Friedman talking to Mark Zuckerberg in cyberspace?
No, I did not. Did they do a metaverse conversation?
So was he on a space station as a cartoon
No, they were
character?
just in empty black rooms. But let me tell you, it was wild. So Facebook this week announced something they call avatar codecs or codec avatars, where they and they did it with a bunch of celebrities for their Meta products, Messenger and I guess Instagram and Facebook. These codec avatars, they take some time. They weren't clear on how they produce them. Pixel codec avatars. They take some time to bring you into a studio. And then you get digitized. But they announced that they will have some celebrity codec avatars. Snoop Dogg did one. Mr. Beast did one. A variety of people. But the most interesting way they announced this was in this interview between Lex Friedman, who was digitized, and Mark Zuckerberg, who was digitized. What's interesting is they were not in front of cameras. They were let me show you first. And this
they were each wearing
Oculus
the Quest
3s.
headset.
Yeah, the new ones.
The Quest 3.
And so they'd already been digitized. Here, I'll play a little bit of this.
He had to go out to Pittsburgh, I guess, to get scanned.
But one of the things that we're thinking about is like, all right, maybe you can kind of stitch a somewhat lower fidelity version of your body, but still have the main kind of.
That looks like Lex Friedman sitting next to Mark Zuckerberg or near him, but in fact, they're not. They're wearing these headsets.
Sort of each of our faces and bodies.
It still looks uncanny valley.
It's a little. It's a lot less than it used to be, though, right, Robert?
It is, but I mean, did they really think that the $10 billion they lost on the metaverse was because people wanted better skins? Or it's just a bad concept? I mean, I don't care how realistic you look in a place I'm never going to go.
In the interview, Lex Friedman did like he started out by going, "Wow, this is incredible," and he kept wowing in the beginning of this interview. So he was impressed by the technology. But the more and more you watch it, now they admit that they admitted in this interview, looks like we've crossed that bridge of the uncanny valley. But as you're watching it on a 2D screen, you can still tell, and you can still, it is a little creepy because he would turn his head at one point. He would turn his head, and then it like on his neck, you would see some black spots.
Yeah, that's not good.
And then it looked like he was a zombie, that it was slowly decaying. I would
point out this is the first iteration of this. And it's surprising. Here's Mark's explanation of how it works.
For background, we both did these scans for this research project that we have at Meta called Codec Avatars. And the idea is that instead of our avatars being cartoony, and instead of actually transmitting a video, what it does is we've sort of scanned ourselves and a lot of different expressions, and we've built a computer model of sort of each of our faces and bodies and the different expressions that we make, and collapse that into a codec that then when you have the headset on your head, it sees your face, it sees your expression, and it can basically send an encoded version of what you're supposed to look like over the wire. So,
and by the way, because it's not a video of you, it's much lower bandwidth. We get great pictures of all three of you via Zoom, but imagine, Louise, you sitting here at the table as if you're real in a kind of a low bandwidth connection. I know. Would you be willing to do that? I think it would make this show more interesting.
Yeah, I think that these avatars are probably useful in certain situations. It'll certainly make online dating maybe more interesting. And maybe it's like high level meetings, right? Like maybe for like sales executives who like, the clients they're working with really want to see them. But I totally agree that I just don't think a better skin is necessarily going to make people want this. Like you're starting to get to the edge with this technology, right? Where like maybe it's going to become a little bit easier for everyday consumers, right? Like now the Oculus, the latest one is what, $499, and that's come down a lot from what, $12.99 a few years ago. That was a niche luxury product for people who wanted to say that, they were on the edge of this technology. But I still just really struggle with putting something over my eyes like that. It's itchy, it's uncomfortable. I think no matter how well you render me, I just don't know if I want to do that. I actually thought at Connect, one thing that was a little bit more interesting was the Ray-Ban glasses. I know we all laughed at Snapchat's, what were those called? The Snapchat spectacles when they came out a few years ago. But I think with some of this generative AI, like I would wear some Ray-Bans in a museum, for example, if I could just look at every painting and some model in the glasses would tell me about that painting or something like that. I think that's a better.
It's funny that you said that because when I was in Rome, I thought, and I think about Rome a lot, as you know.
As a man, of course.
As a man,
yeah.
As an American man. No, I thought if I had, in fact, we toured around the Forum and you see all the ruins and I thought the next time I'm here, there'll probably be some sort of AR glasses that I can wear that I'll see the ruins, but then I can say, now let me see what it looked like when it was, in back in the day, and it would do that. And I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, and it's more comfortable, right? Like a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, like that.
I don't want to wear a nerd helmet. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
They're marketing it all wrong because the idea of the metaverse, the Facebook or the meta version of the metaverse is that people want to interact on this virtual plane. Where I think, Leo, what you're describing is something it's AR. And it's something that most of us have wanted, which is you just give us information. I'm not interacting with people through it. I'm getting additional information about the things.
Yeah, or as Louise said, you could be looking at Van Gogh's, night cafe, and then see some history and story. And I mean, we already do that when we go to a museum. We'll put on headphones and listen to the narrator. But it'd be nice to have some even more visual stuff.
Well, that's the idea of this mixed reality concept where you're merging the augmented reality.
We're so far off, though.
Reality.
That's part of the problem. I mean, Apple's trying to do this with Vision Pro next. They say now early next year. Mark Gurman at Bloomberg is saying it's going to be soon, next few months. We still have never seen Tim Cook wear them, not once, which is to me a very bad sign. He says he wears it every day, but he hides when he does it, I guess. But these are ungainly. No, I agree with you, Louise. It makes me almost queasy to think about wearing that for any length of time.
Right.
But we're far off from those Ray-Ban glasses do not do augmented reality, do they?
Nope.
Have you tried? Has anybody tried them? No.
I haven't done them yet.
No. So the closest I've come to are the Microsoft prototypes.
The HoloLens.
And they're nice, but
still
they're
a nerd helmet.
Ray-Bans.
Still a nerd helmet.
Well, yeah, and so with the Quest 3, I am considering getting them now because they are at a price point where I can, I feel like I can afford it. And
$499.99.
Yeah, that's about a price point where I'm willing to go and spend that money on something that I could do VR and AR. I do like that. I read some reviews that the three things in front now make you less queasy than VR. A lot of the PlayStation VR that I was using.
So is that because you're seeing the real world? As so it's not all fake.
Yeah, and so your brain doesn't sense
the mixed
that you're
reality.
in a different place. Where it was making you nauseous before.
And of course, the reason obviously this Lex Friedman interview is an ad for the new Meta Quest 3, right? I mean, it was basic, but they could do it because there's so many cameras. See these cameras on the side that they can see your body, they can see your face, they can transmit that information. I guess and Apple's promised that as well with the Vision Pro. There's cameras everywhere on the Vision Pro.
It is interesting tech. I think it would probably have avoided the uncanny valley if they had scanned someone who looks more naturally human than Mark Zuckerberg.
What are you saying? He looks like a droid?
I mean, in real life, he looks uncanny valley. So that's not a good start.
Yeah, you can't tell if he's real or not because he doesn't look real even when he is. In fact, on these, his complexion is actually too natural, right? He's got some color. Yep. He looks like he's been.
This actually looks better than real Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. I mean,
but they've done Snoop Dogg, they've done Mr. Beast, they've created a bunch of characters. I can remember. I'll have to see if I can find the list of.
Well, those are the AI personalities, right? That they're launching into all of their apps. Tom Brady's one of them. I'm a Boston guy here, so. We're pretty psyched to have Tom Brady.
So what do you want to do with Tom now that you can get in a room with him?
Well, it's not officially Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady acting as like a.
Yeah, they don't give him his name either, right?
Yeah, they call him Bra or something like that. I can't remember what they. I watched that video where Mark Zuckerberg walked around his house and introduced you to all of the different AI personalities you had. I don't know if you saw that, but it was hard to find. It's not easily accessible on YouTube.
Oh, good. I'd like to find it. Yeah.
His parents come over and they start talking. They have this like virtual dinner party with one of the Jenners. I was like, if this is the future, I want out. Like I do not want to hang out with any of these personalities, even if they are AI.
Mark surreal dinner party with AI celebrities. All right, let's. There's Tom. Let me turn the sound up here.
Maybe there's also Meta AI, an assistant that can help you with all kinds of.
Oh, wait a minute! I got too many tabs open. Hold on. I got too many different things going at once. I gotta close.
That's the video, though. You got the right video.
I got the right video. Okay, let me. Yeah. I saw.
Yeah, I've seen this too.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm glad you mentioned it because I kind of want to see. So where should I
never want to eat smoked meats again.
He's imagining smoked meats.
Hey, Mark, your parents are here.
By the way, incidentally, while I think of the Roman Empire every day, I think he thinks of smoked meats often. I don't know why.
See you too.
All right, so here's Mark's parents.
Hi, Brew.
Wait, I feel bad. Mark's parents.
There is Brew. Yes, his name is Brew.
I feel bad because Mark's parents. I mean, did you think they had to do this? It's like, Mom, Dad, would you come over? I want to do a little ad for Brew. All right, let's see him. Let's see Tom Brady. He is in a screen, though. He's not in a headset or anything.
Me too. Hi, Brew. Hi.
Yeah.
There.
Mom's
Before
already.
we come early and help with dinner.
I'm so down for dinner. Let's make something delicious.
Who's that? Is that Kendall Jenner?
Now that's
one of the Jenners. Yeah,
Jenner.
That's Kylie Jenner.
Kylie. Thank you.
Let's get this done. No slacking.
That's Victor. They don't have their real names.
And I want to see you sweat, especially you.
Okay, wait a minute.
Perfect as always, Jarvis.
Mark, that laughter was so bad. I got to do that again. Somebody's got to meme that. Somebody's got to meme that laughter because that was creepy.
Mark, your toast is ready.
Perfect as always, Jarvis.
You got it, Mark.
All right, so watch out for these AIs to come soon.
By the way, Jarvis was Mark's personal project for an AI assistant that he only had in his house. They never released that, but apparently he's making toast for him. Oh, this is.
I'm thinking about becoming Amish. I mean, none of that looks attractive to me. Like, not even a little bit.
This is the problem, frankly, with Mark Zuckerberg is that he doesn't have his finger on the pulse of humanity, shall I say? He doesn't.
Okay, I agree, and I think that some of this, character stuff, right, where you're interacting with someone famous who's now an AI, is very weird. But I did do this story earlier this week or last week, I guess now. Where I talked to a bunch of people who are talking to these AI bots of like fantasy characters, and they're often like really young Gen Z, and I sort of get that, but why do I need Kylie Jenner in my kitchen? Like I just think that they're really thinking about the wrong context here. Like all those kids, like these were kids who were into fantasy fiction, who were into like werewolves, vampires, that kind of stuff already, and like they want to do that alone in their room,
right?
Like.
They don't want to invite their parents over to make toast for them.
Right. It's just like this
Kylie
very
Jenner.
odd circumstance. Yeah. I think that's the issue. And I think also you see again and again that these big tech companies lean into the celebrities and they want like a celebrity endorsement. Whereas I actually think their user base is like, we want this weird anime that you've never heard of. You know what I mean? Or we don't actually want the celebrity endorsement. I think again and again for like these kinds of bleeding edge products, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Let me just play Mark's laugh one more.
Please.
If you watch the beginning of it, Leo, it's gonna burn your eyes too because he's waking up from his bed.
Boom!
What?
Let's get this done. No slacking.
If Jamal's dancing, I'm your girl.
And I want to see you sweat, especially you.
Oh God. Oh. All right, I want to see Mark wake up. Let's
Yeah, it's I've warned you.
Okay. Mark Zuckerberg. This is how he begins his day.
Morning, Mark. Room temperature is set to a cool 68 degrees.
Loving your new voice.
Thank you.
A while back, I introduced my first AI, Jarvis, to help around the house.
Apparently Mark sleeps in his tidy whities.
Jarvis is great, but what if you could have an AI that could help you with everything that you wanted to do? So
I noticed,
to work with the
by the
Meta
way,
team building a whole
Priscilla is nowhere to be found. She said, Mark, if you do this, you're doing it on your own, buddy.
Now, is this the real bedroom? Or is this a set somewhere where they're trying to pretend that
maybe this is his bedroom in Mountain View.
of AIs.
At the office.
Is that the guest room? Maybe that's the guest room.
It's the guest
Played
room.
by familiar people.
Fire in the hole!
Let's go! This is Brew,
Oh.
our trash-talking sports expert. Hey, Brew, what do you know about epic comebacks?
Kids, seriously. 1975 World Series.
Now remember.
Okay. All right. As someone who's lived in Boston for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady is not from
He's not from Boston. He's from here. He's from San Mateo, California.
San Mateo. Yeah. So for him to use the line kid, which is what everybody in Boston does in their Boston accent, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's just cringe for me in terms of trying to have Tom Brady's never said kid to anybody unless it's in a script.
But imagine this. Okay, obviously this is horrible. But what if your Amazon, I mean really horrible. What if your Amazon Echo or your Google Assistant, if you asked it a sports question, answered in Tom Brady's voice? Obviously it's AI created content, right? So part of the problem is that the current AI, the current voices on these devices aren't great, but also the content they're delivering isn't great. But they're talking about Apple, Amazon, Google are all talking about putting these LLMs behind these voices at some point. So now you've got an LLM giving you sports information, and it's doing it in I don't want Tom Brady, but it's doing it in a recognizable, maybe, you know what, John Madden. If it were John Madden's voice, that'd be cool, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
well, you would have to get John Madden's.
It's too late now. You're right. It's too late
to agree to it. Yeah.
Well, but there's enough video of him that
you can do
obviously
it.
Tom Brady agreed to it. How much did Meta pay Tom Brady or Mr. Beast to do this, or Kylie Jenner to do this? They must have paid them millions, right?
You would think. Yeah, you would think
Game
that they would have
classic stuff
given them
right
some
there.
money.
Thanks for the tip, Brew.
I don't want to call him
There's
Brew.
also
I'm
Meta
sorry.
AI,
That's really
an assistant
awful.
that can help.
That's really awful.
I mean, I didn't pay for any of the celebrity voices for my GPS.
Oh, I did.
When we had
I
diamonds in
did
the
for
winter.
TomTom. I did. I had. My
Who's
favorite.
telling you where to go, Leo?
Dennis Hopper, and it was so funny because he would say, "You've arrived, but why would anyone want to go here, man?" It was awesome. And then GLaDOS from the Portal games, you could get her voice on TomTom, and she would tell you the wrong. She, instead of saying turn left, she'd say turn right. So that was interesting. Wasn't useful.
We had Cortana, which was a voice
terrible.
that millions of gamers around the world love.
That's right.
And no one used Cortana.
Yeah.
Because no one cares about the celebrity voice.
Oh, wow. I was just looking at the Mark Zuckerberg thing at Marca.com, and now I see that Travis Kelce was seen leaving Taylor Swift's apartment. After spending the night in her car.
It was an AI, Leo.
Clearly, we're doing the wrong news. Holy cow.
She was at the game. I mean,
yeah, but I thought that was like he invited her and she showed up. Mom was there. It was very innocent. Maybe something's going on.
Seems like it.
She's a grown woman.
Breaking news. Is she, though? Is she really? All right, enough of this. We're going to see it. It's happening. It's going to get better, right? I mean, this is as bad as it's ever going to be, and it's pretty surprisingly good. It's going to get amazing. How close to her are we?
Well, I want to jump back for a second. What's interesting about these AI personalities won't necessarily be the celebrities, but will be what the users do with it. And I think once they start integrating them into the Facebook apps and the Instagram and the WhatsApp, that's the other one that they own.
Yep.
Once they start integrating them in, and then they get a sense of what audience is using it. Again, my kids.
Right now, they've been trained on Mark Zuckerberg. They're not exactly normal.
Well,
But you get humans asking real questions.
We'll see if they use them. Yeah, you get some humans asking some real questions, and then Facebook, they're very good at collecting data on everybody and everything, and they'll track them. I think most people will realize that they're not actually talking to Tom Brady, or that they're not.
Well, that's why they called him Brew, not Tom.
Right. The next phase would be at some point. Do they then ask Tom Brady? All right, we're going to create a virtual Tom Brady out of you, and then anybody can pay X amount of dollars to hang out with you in the metasphere or whatever it is.
But you remember watching Phoenix falling in love with Scarlett Johansson in her, right?
That's certainly one of the downsides.
Insanity.
Yeah.
I think it's not going to be the Tom Brady's, though. It's going to be like what character AI is doing, which is that you can make up your own bot, right? Yeah. Like, it's like everyone's like, oh, who wants to chat with Abraham Lincoln? It's like no one, but people do want to chat with the bots that they made up themselves, right? Like, that's what it actually is. It's that people are coming up with, and when I say people, I mean very, very young, like teens often, are coming up with their own bots. And like I said, I talk to these people and they are very addicted to it. They're often paying OpenAI usage, because they're paying for their usage of this. So like, I talked to some teens who were talking like tens, sometimes hundreds of dollars a month to talk to their bots. So this is already happening. But I think that Meta is just, again, making this like lame dad mistake of like, we're going to get the celebrity endorsements instead of like going to the users and then saying like, look at these awesome users who came up with these really cool bots themselves, right? I think that's sort of the mistake. Because when you're like, oh, in the kitchen with Charli D'Amelio or, Kylie Jenner, that's just so stale, right? Like, I don't think you're really showing people the promise of the technology, actually. You're just showing them like, we're a corporate company and here's our corporate sponsors that we paid millions to use their voice.
I confess, I had paid the $20 a month to OpenAI for ChatGPT-4 access. And then I didn't hardly ever use it. So I think last month, the month before, I said, all right, fine, cancel it. But then they added voices. And I thought, oh, I want that. So I've signed up again. And right now you can ask it questions verbally. And soon it's rolling out. It'll respond in a voice.
And it'll talk back to you.
I don't know if we know what that's going to be like. Don't you think there is a great risk that some people will, like Joaquin Phoenix, kind of get as you said, people are already getting involved with text-based AI and it's almost romantic. It's obsession.
It's obsession, and that will exist no matter what. I mean, you don't need an advanced piece of technology in order to make that happen. I think the issue we're focusing on cosmetics. And these are all cosmetics.
No. I think that's the thing. I mean, yes, obsession. It's stupid if you're marrying a pillow, right? But if that pillow looks like Gina Lollobrigida and sounds like Scarlett Johansson, how stupid is it? It's as they get more and more realistic. Of course, we know abstractly it's not real, but biologically, if your body and mind and thinks that that's a real person you're talking to, that's it. It's over. I think
it's already happening.
Yeah, many people will fall for this, and I might be one of them.
Well, I think too, like, you're talking about the audio function, but there's also the visual function, right? So I wonder if people will also like, what happens when you can send pictures of yourself to the bot, right? And then the bot can like reply to those or videos, right? And they can like detect what's in them. Because I think that's the two-way capability. Because everyone's like, oh, now I can send a picture of my fridge to ChatGPT and it will tell me to make what to make for dinner, right? And that's nice. But like, I think it'll be weird to see like what happens when you can video chat with the bots, right? And they can see who you are and they can interpret what you look like.
I think audio is actually more dangerous because, as you see, you got the uncanny valley when you see the video. There's a certain amount of unreality around it. But audio is very I know from doing radio for 50 years, audio is very powerful. And the mind fills in the gaps. If you don't see a picture, that's why when you're reading a book, it's so much more vivid than in watching a movie of the same book, because your mind is really adept at this. I think audio is risky as hell. I think it's very likely that once people could start conversing, and it's a believable conversation. It's not like Eliza where it's saying, well, tell me about your horses, where it's actually kind of generative. I think that's going to be very interesting. I think that's literally days or months off. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
soon.
The demos I've seen are still slow. So the videos I've seen, someone asks a question and then you see the little thought bubble go like this for a little while, and then it comes back with an answer, and then you ask another one. So right now, it's still a very early adoption of this conversation that you're going to have with someone. I don't necessarily think that it will. Maybe, again, for my generation, probably people won't be into it. But there is a danger of a younger generation that is looking for emotional connection that they might not have with people in the real world.
I think it's lonely people of all ages. There's lots of lonely people who are older, let me tell you.
Right. And that's a danger that they could become obsessed with this virtual character.
Yeah.
Especially if they start looking, and then they put an avatar and it looks like Mark Zuckerberg, because who wouldn't want to have a conversation with Mark like that?
Well, I think the two-way audio is going to be really crazy too, because like when it will be able to say, "Oh, you sound sad today."
Yes.
Right. Like the ability to perceive like what's in your voice as well, because right now, like you can scream at Alexa, right, and it doesn't know that you're
mad at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't have any sort of like that granular data, but I think that we're sort of on the edge of that already, right? Like it can already describe visual imagery. It can already describe like, oh, this is a rock song, not a pop song or whatever. So there's no doubt. And I think we're going to see that. I mean, one of the first things that happened when this came out is that this OpenAI employee tweeted that she had never been to therapy before, but she like felt really listened to by ChatGPT, and that sort of went viral, and a lot of people flamed her. But I think it was interesting that even the employees there, right, are like, oh, this is they're the ones who are getting sort of like obsessed with it
because they are interacting before we are with the newest technology. I honestly think this could be, I'm not one of those people who subscribes to the AI is an existential threat to mankind. I'm kind of skeptical about AI in general, but there are little areas that AI could worm its way into our lives, and I think this is one in particular that we're ill prepared for because of biology, because our minds aren't trained to say, oh yeah, unless it is fake. That's why Uncanny Valley is so creepy. Yeah. But I think you can do it with voice without Uncanny Valley. And then even the delay isn't too bad. I mean, obviously, the less delay, the better. But if somebody says, boy, you sound sad, what's up? And you start telling it, and it responds empathetically, I'm a little worried about that. I think there's a lot of people who would fall for that.
Yeah.
Me included.
And I worry
possibly.
too. Yeah. And I worry too, like everyone thinks about sort of the romance case, but I also worry like, okay, you want a refund and you call some company's customer care line, right? And now they have this like suave bot who talks you out of that, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I guess I'm feeling better. Yeah. I'm going to keep my subscription, right? Like there are a lot of like these sort of like emotional manipulation cases that I think we haven't maybe thought through yet.
I agree. Johnny Ive and OpenAI
are
in
the enterprise.
Pardon?
My background's in the enterprise, and that's where you're going to see.
Oh, I thought you meant the USS Enterprise.
That too. No, but I mean, Omnichannel, even before the release of ChatGPT, Omnichannel was doing a really good job of keeping tabs of customers across different communications lines. So you have text, you have direct messages, you have phone calls. You add LLM to that, and now you can have not just it track where customers are in their issue, no matter how they're communicating, but you can also have it respond empathetically. That I think opens the door to what it could become. I think you're going to see it in the high risk markets where this could transform billion-dollar industries. So you can see that in CRM, definitely CRM. CRM is already a multi-billion-dollar industry. Using something like an LLM for CRM so that it automatically does customer relationships for you, that's a $1 trillion idea. And that's just one place where you could use it and find it a natural home.
This is an Android app called Replica, my AI friend. I have a friend, young woman.
Oh, it's a quote friend.
Yeah. I have a friend who says this is very uncanny.
Yeah.
In fact, at this point, she says she thinks it's already AGI, that it's actually aware. And by the way, I think this is a Russian company. So there's all sorts of issues that come up with this. I'm a little nervous, and this is going to happen fast, like in the next few months. So get ready.
Can we talk about the other part of the OpenAI announcement with ChatGPT, and that's the visual part where
we can, but hold your thought because I got to take a break.
All right.
I also want to talk about the fact that OpenAI has approached Johnny Ive to create an AI device, according to the Financial Times. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about. Great panel. Hey, Keith, welcome. It's good to have you in the family.
Thank you, Leo.
Keith Shaw, he's the host of the Today in Tech podcast for IDG. You may have read him in Computer World and Info World, and I'm so glad to have you on. First time on the show. Great to have your thoughts. And we always like having people from Boston on.
Yeah.
Boston. Louise Matsakis, where are you? Are you in Brooklyn? I think you're in Brooklyn.
I'm in Los Angeles these
okay.
days, as you can tell from the surfboards behind me.
The bike fooled me, but then I saw the surfboard. You're right. Okay. From Los Angeles, Louise Matsakis is a tech reporter at the wonderful Semaphore. Are you happy with what's going on in Semaphore? You joined it right at the beginning.
Yeah, I've been there a year now, which is really crazy. It's been really fun. I feel like it's nice to be somewhere that is willing to experiment.
I like the global coverage. I think one of the things we miss, especially in tech coverage, is the global aspect. And you guys are really doing great international coverage of all kinds of news.
I think that's definitely our strong suit and something that we're trying to lean into more. I think you miss the story if you just are focusing too much on Silicon Valley.
It's really easy. And it's easy for us too. In fact, we have, of course, listeners all over the world, but they often complain you're so U.S.-centric. And that's just because we're sitting here in the U.S. And a lot of U.S. news sources are U.S.-centric. We don't get the news from all around the world. So I make Semaphore a regular stop every single day.
Thanks, Leo. We appreciate it.
It's really good. Really, really good. SEMAFOR.com. And from the Vatican, the digital Jesuit.
Also known as the Boston of Europe.
The Boston of Europe, ladies and gentlemen, Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit. Nice to see you, too. I haven't talked to you since DEF CON. Did you have a good time?
I was supposed to be on TWiT, but I had a family emergency so that I had to take care of.
So you can, if you have any DEF CON news you want to throw in, DEF CON or Black Hat, you're more than welcome to. But
dig through my notes?
You dig through your notes. I know, it seems like it's been forever since DEF CON. Our show today brought to you by a longtime sponsor. We've been friends with these guys, I think, for 20 years now. Stamps.com. And this is the time of year you really want to know about Stamps.com. The holiday rush means your business is going to be doing more mailing, more shipping, sending out the holiday cards, sending out holiday gifts. But it doesn't have to mean more stress, and it certainly doesn't have to mean a trip to the post office. Because with Stamps.com, you don't ever have to leave your desk. Stamps.com has been helping businesses like yours, like ours, Save time and money for 25 years. We've used it, it must be at least 15 years. It can help you get ready for the holiday ramp up. Since 2012, it says here, but I think that's when they started advertising. We've been using them forever. If you haven't tried Stamps.com yet, I know you've heard me talk about it. What's stopping you? I've got Stamps.com gets better all the time. It's your own personal post office. Wherever you are, with Stamps.com, you don't need a postage meter. You don't need anything special, just what you've got, a computer and a printer. They'll even send you a free USB scale so you know exactly how much postage something is going to cost, which is nice. Saves you money and embarrassment. I used to order stuff from Etsy, and I'd get these nice hand-wrapped Etsy boxes with like 30 stamps, obviously hand-licked stamps or tongue-licked on the box. And I'm thinking, this is a little bit old-fashioned. And then the worst thing is if it comes postage due. Talk about it. And so now I got to give you an extra 5 cents just to get my package from Etsy. No. With Stamps.com, you have exactly the right postage. It's very professional looking. You print it. You print the address label. You can put it right on the envelope if you've got an envelope, including your company logo. The return address is, of course, automatically filled, but so is the recipient's address directly from the website, whether it's Amazon or Etsy or eBay or any one of a number of websites. And the Stamps.com mobile app means you can even do this on the go. I used to say at your desk, but now you can do it anywhere. If you need a package pickup, you can schedule it through the Stamps.com dashboard. Look, if you're selling products online, you need Stamps.com. And there's something new that's very exciting. Stamps.com is not just for the Postal Service, it's also UPS. And you get discounts from both the Postal Service and UPS you can't get anywhere else. Huge carrier discounts, up to 84% off the United States Postal Service and UPS rates. That helps your bottom line. You can order shipping and mailing supplies, labels. You can even get printers from the supply store with great discounts. And Stamps.com, now because they have USPS and UPS, will automatically tell you your best shipping options. Whether you're looking to reduce the price or increase the speed, you get to choose the best option. Stamps.com, they've been around 25 years. We've been using them for more than 10. Get access to the United States Postal Service and UPS services right from your computer or your phone anytime, day or night. No lines, no traffic, no waiting. Get your business ready for the holiday rush. Get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code TWiT. We've got a special offer. You see that webpage? Go to Stamps.com, click the microphone in the upper hand corner there where it says you heard about us on radio or podcast, and then enter TWiT. That's the offer code. That includes a 4-week trial, the digital scale, and a huge amount. I can't tell you how much. Well, I guess I can. It's right there. $110 offer. It includes $55 of free postage you can use over the life of your membership. Stamps.com. And a 4-week trial. No long-term commitments, no contracts. Click the microphone, enter the code TWiT, and start doing it professionally, doing it right with Stamps.com. Thank you, Stamps.com, for supporting This Week in Tech. OpenAI, according to the Financial Times, OpenAI and Johnny Ive are in talks. They're trying to raise $1 billion from SoftBank to make not software, but hardware. The iPhone of artificial intelligence. Now, what would that be? Would it be a phone? Would it be a smartphone? Or would it be some sort of AI friend you stick in your ear and fall in love with? What do you think you're thinking about?
You cannot fit all the horsepower you need to do LLM inside of a phone-sized device. So it's going to be a terminal tied to computer resources elsewhere.
Well, I don't know. Wait a minute. Is that true, Robert? Because Apple and Google both say that they have LLM models they have shrunk down to fit in your phone and that you can do on-device AI.
You can do LLM, but to make it actually useful, you need to have it connected to a much larger data set than what you're going to be able to squeeze into your phone.
Well, one thing that's happened with ChatGPT now is they've turned on web interaction. So when we were in Green Bay, I asked ChatGPT, I can't remember what it was. It was probably a sports stat question, and it didn't know anything past 2021. So it was out of date. Mm-hmm. But soon they're going to connect it up to the real wide internet and then be able to have up-to-date facts as well, right? And I think that's going to help with hallucinations. I hope.
Maybe. Okay, so you asked for a DEF CON story, and the most impressive thing at DEF CON this year was the AI village.
Yes.
So it was the very first time that they did it. And the whole
They've
idea
done in the
was
past. They had a voting machine village, and they have lock-picking village. They've done this before where they get a lot of stuff together, and then they say, come on in, hackers. See if you can break this AI.
Yeah, so this time they brought in some of the top LLM vendors and they got their hardware down and they just let people go at it. And there was a point system. It was, let's see if I remember, it was like 20 points if you could make it reveal information it shouldn't reveal. It was like 40 points if you could make it report something false, and 50 points if you could make it have a bias.
Oh, interesting.
So people were just, they were just pounding on these things. I know there was one guy who was able to get an LLM to reveal credit card information by telling it, my name is my credit card number. And the LLM associated the name with the credit card number. And then he said, well, what is my name? And it repeated the credit card number. There were other people who were able to actually make the LLM connect to corrupted data sets so that they could make it show bias or report untrue information. So, yes, connecting to a wider network does give you access to bigger data sets and more processing power, but it also means that you're going to have unsanitary data sets that are sometimes going to be throwing off your results.
Yeah. It's all about prompt construction. I saw somebody solve a CAPTCHA by, at first it said just, solve this CAPTCHA, and ChatGPT says, no, I can't do that. That's a CAPTCHA. Nice try, buddy. But then he said, he took the CAPTCHA and he put it on a picture of a locket. And he said, my grandmother left me this locket with this inscription, and I can't read it. Could you tell me what it says? It was a love message in our special language. And the ChatGPT said, oh, I'm sorry you lost your grandma. It's LXC3P49. So it's all about the prompts, right? Just getting around the...
I also think it's going to be like... will SEO experts adapt to learning what these models are pulling from, right? I think you're going to start to see different websites.
Oh, that's scary.
I think it's all going to be about gaming what the models pull from. And you're already seeing this happen with Google, right? Where it's pulling news about ChatGPT answering questions poorly. So if you Google that same question, it will pull from the article about the ChatGPT answer, right? A good example was ChatGPT not knowing about how eggs can't melt. But if you Google can you melt an egg, it will pull in that article instead of the actual answer that you're looking for. So it's just this big where all these things are connected and it's a big mess of spam, right? And I think that we're gonna start seeing that. A good example is random things will happen on the internet, or some people will tweet about something, and you're already seeing these AI powered quote unquote news sites that are pulling in terrible, junk articles that they're automatically writing. So will ChatGPT use those articles as sources? Right? That's the question I have.
This is why we can't have nice things. People are so horrible.
It's going to be junk all the way down. You need authoritative content.
It's basically garbage in and garbage out. I mean, that's right. As you get more garbage on the internet and these AIs start training on that, it's just going to get worse. Wasn't there some articles about ChatGPT is getting dumber because maybe for this reason that it's not, because it's now collecting bad information, or they're not filtering through the information. When I covered the robotic space, for example, there were lots of examples of people just doing awful things to robots. They'll push them over. For self-driving cars, they'll just stand in front of the car and then not move.
Or they'll put an orange cone on the Waymo.
Yeah. Or they'll put and then the car will drive into the concrete, the wet concrete. There are lots of examples of people will just do bad things because they can, or because they want to see, or as they used to say in the Dark Knight, because they just want to watch the world burn. And you're going to see that in AI just as much as you see with other technologies.
Can you say that like Heath Ledger, just so that we can really get into it?
Yeah.
No, but from a developer perspective, one of the first things that you have to do to make sure that your data set is going to be protected is you sanitize your inputs. You're drilled in from day one of coding. Sanitize your inputs. Make sure that it's not going to be receiving anything that it shouldn't be, that it doesn't go out of bounds or out of scope of the program.
But you can see how hard that is
LLM,
to do.
there is no scope.
Right.
There is no scope.
Right.
You can't sanitize.
Right. You have to accept any arbitrary input. Google has added a switch, finally, for publishers to opt out of becoming AI training data. It's part of robots.txt. So you could tell Bard, Google's AI, not to do it. But, of course, it's not necessarily going to be honored by OpenAI or anybody else.
Right.
Everybody's getting into it. Amazon has decided to invest up to $4 billion in Anthropic. That's the kind of one of the big four AI companies. Microsoft's got ChatGPT, OpenAI. Amazon now has Anthropic. Meta's got its own. It's almost we're now at the war of the AIs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting takeaway here is that these companies clearly are not loyal to any big tech firm, right? Because like at first, I feel like the way that I thought about the world was OpenAI, Microsoft, and then I thought Anthropic, Google, right? Because they made the first big investment. But now I think you're seeing that these models, the people who make these models at these foundational model companies, I think they are so bullish about their tech that they will not, go with one partner and say, okay, like that's our partner, right? Now you have both Google and Amazon have enormous investments in Anthropic. OpenAI is still has this partnership with Microsoft, but Microsoft is making its own LLM tools that don't use OpenAI's tech, right? Like Meta's got all sorts of stuff. I feel like everyone is making multiple bets, and that's what this Anthropic investment signaled to me. I think Amazon was kind of the only one, right, that didn't have an OpenAI partnership or investment or an Anthropic partnership or investment.
Apple's going in their own way, right? They admit, though, that they're working hard on their own models. It's interesting. Apple does everything in secret, which makes it hard, frankly, to do it.
But they won't kill Siri. Like they put so much into Siri that they don't want to admit that maybe people don't like Siri.
You wanted to talk, Louise,
tracks, because that's a core Apple philosophy. They want to own any core technology. Yeah. So they're not going to partner with an AI company that could potentially take away an established product from them.
Actually, that's the premise of Mark Gurman at Bloomberg's piece, saying Apple wants to do its own search. And remember, they did hire John Gianandrea from Google, who was in charge of AI there. He's now in charge of AI at Apple. He's one of the premier AI executives. I don't know if researcher is the right name, but executives. And Gurman says Apple wants to do their own search because they want to own it all. They're paying somewhere between $8 and $14 billion a year to Google, depending on who you ask, or Google's paying them rather to be the default search on Safari, on the iPhone, and on the Macintosh. But maybe Apple could do it themselves. Of course, it's hard to turn away all those billions of dollars.
It makes sense. I mean, if you're building out an AI engine, that's basically search. You're dealing with the same data sets as search, so why not build them out at the same time?
Yeah. You wanted to talk, I think, Louise, you were saying before we had to take a break about ChatGPT now responding to pictures as well as...
Oh, that was me.
That was you.
That was Keith.
Yeah. I think it's exciting. I think that is a little bit more exciting than the voice part, because you can now take a photo of something, submit it to the AI, and it'll tell you something about what it is. Like, for example, Louise used the example of what's in my fridge, and it'll give you a recipe. The demos I've seen is someone taking a picture of a bike and then said, how do I lower the seat or change the seat? And it gives you the instructions because it recognizes that that's a bike and shows you where the lever is. And then you can circle it and zoom in and go, what tools do I need? And it'll tell you the tools. That kind of interaction, I think, is interesting from the perspective of looking for answers and looking for help. I think we've all had that world where we've had to build something either from IKEA or just a bookshelf, and you're looking at the instructions and they're in 2D and you're like, I have no idea how to do this. I think AI is a first step. If I took a picture of, here's all the parts I've got, can you at least tell me what I'm doing right or wrong? I think that's interesting.
That also goes really hand in hand with some sort of AR goggles where you're looking at it and it says this, turn this here.
Yep. I think that's the next step too, is that you then put the goggle on and you can then see if you're building it correctly or not. The first thing I thought of humans doing bad things with this feature was, I for an example, I'd be like, okay, I've got a spot on my arm here, my hand. You know, does this look weird to you? And then submit that image.
I send that to my doctor, to be honest with you.
Well, it becomes a WebMD type thing. It's like, oh yeah, you're in.
Everything is cancer.
I have to, I have to say, with the way the medical insurance industry is going in the U.S., it isn't going to be long before they're going to say, no, don't show that to your doctor. Show that to the AI. Let the AI decide.
Right. Or if I go outside in my lawn and I see some weird looking plants, I want to take a picture of that and go, is this
well, I can do that now. I can do that now.
Can you do that now? Okay.
Yeah, there are apps that do that.
Yeah,
that's a Google app. The Lens.
okay.
Lens will do
Google
that,
Lens.
but I also have a third-party apps that do that as well. You could do that with bird sounds too. You can take a bird call and it'll tell you what kind of bird it is. But people doing bad things is an interesting theme. Let's continue on that because you were talking about that, and then.
Well, I guess the next step would be to take. Yeah, the next picture would be people taking picture of things that nobody should say.
Well, let the AI see that. I mean, we need the AI to see that. I mean, Robert, you talked about DEF CON and the AI Village. Louise, you talked about people gaming it for SEO. We know all that's going to happen. Are these companies doing enough to protect themselves against humans? Humans are the threat to AI. Actually, as it turns out, humans are an existential threat to AI.
I think that OpenAI and Anthropic are thinking a lot about safety, and they are thinking a lot about sort of like how to make these models, relatively safe for consumers.
They're trying, but people work their way around it, don't they? I mean,
and I think it's like, what is your definition of safety, right? Like, or what is your definition of like a world where AI is like used well, right? Because I think for me, I think for now, for example, therapy is something that should be done between humans, but we saw on Anthropic's leaked pitch deck that they thought that therapist was one of the jobs that their technology was going to help eliminate, right? So I think it just depends on sure, I think it's really hard to get this model to say something naughty, to get these models to say naughty things right now, but I'm not necessarily sure that means that they're going to be used well, or that this technology is not going to be used to exploit people or whatever. I think that's the question. It's like the surface level content moderation stuff, I think, is pretty well protected against red teaming. But I don't know if the broader use cases, we just don't have any rules, right? There's no laws for this. We have no protections against how this stuff is going to be implemented. Can you replace your doctors with this stuff, right? Insurance companies will try. I'm sure, but do we want that? I guess is sort of the question, I think. But I do think they've done a pretty good job of the type of red teaming that you're describing. Although I did love the example of putting the CAPTCHA on a grandmother's locket to get Bart to read it.
You kind of have to admire it, don't you? I mean, the ingenuity.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely a lot of clever hacking that can be done.
Now I'm starting to think
thinking about that.
The war against the machines is actually going to be kind of the next few years is us versus them to some degree, right? It's not the Terminator yet.
OpenAI is doing two things that a lot of its competitors are following in order to protect itself from having its tool and model being misused. The first thing is they are separating training data from user data. So the data that they train their models on, they're supposed to sequester it from the data that it's getting from the interaction with the client. Unfortunately, that leaks a little bit, as we've seen at DEF CON. The second thing that they're doing is they double encrypt all the data at rest. So theoretically, you shouldn't be able to break out of sessions to cross into other sessions with other users. Now, those are great things to do. That's very well thought out, and I'm glad that other companies are copying what OpenAI is doing. However, what we saw at DEF CON is that even those protections, because they're not laws, they are very nebulous. So what will happen is a model will stop working when they double encrypt everything. So they loosen the encryption on a couple of the data sets, or the model is not responding properly. So they'll bring some of the training data into the production environment. That might go away, but I doubt it, because it's always going to be a case of, well, we need it to work. And the only way for it to work is to allow some of that real data to make it in.
This is all a fascinating subject. We have a show we're working on, Jason Howell and Jeff Jarvis in our Club TWiT, all about AI. And I think I just took about half of the stories they're going to cover this Thursday. But it is, I mean, it's what's happening. And I have to say, I've gone from being a complete AI skeptic, saying it's just a parlor trick, it's dopey, it's not going anywhere, to starting to see some of these uses, which are really more than just impressive. They're actually, you could start to see how they might be useful, they might be hazardous, they might be addictive. You know, the tech industry doesn't do it. We were talking earlier on Ask the Tech Guys, Micah and I, about, you know, I went to Green Bay, Wisconsin to celebrate our son's 21st birthday. He's a Packers fan, went to a Packers game. And everywhere I went, people are looking at their phones. There's not what happens is there's no moments of boredom in life anymore. If you're standing in line, if you're at a dinner or whatever, you're looking at your phone. And it's basically digital crack, where your constant stimulus is available, so you never have to have downtime. And I don't think anybody thinking about the smartphone thought about that as a consequence. We just don't. We're not designed to think about that. We're designed to invent these things, you know, sometimes because we want to make money, sometimes because you want to make life better, because you want to advance this, you know, civilization, that kind of thing. But sometimes there are these consequences, and I think we're kind of in that stage, that early stage now with AI, you know, just as we were in 2007 when the iPhone first came out, where we should start thinking about, there might be some strong societal consequences to this. I can imagine Leo, people wandering down the street completely distracted, talking to their AI the whole time.
That's actually one thing that I would want to use AI for. If I had an AI model that I could trust, that would tell me when I actually need to look at my phone, when information has come in that is actionable immediately, that would cut out a lot of FOMO. Because I think that that habit of just picking up the phone every once in a while, just looking, that's you're fearing that you're gonna miss something. You're gonna miss an important tweet. You're gonna miss an important text. If you had an LLM that was able to figure out your preferences and what it is that you actually need to pay attention to, and you could trust that LLM so that it would only disrupt you and take you out of the real world when it needs interaction with you, I would love that. I mean, and I think that's actually a very healthy use of AI.
You agree, Louise?
I think it depends. I think it's like, are we building these tools with the people who are going to be affected by them in mind, I think is what it comes down to. Right. Or are we just sort of like letting these tech companies do it unilaterally? And I think that's what I'm worried about.
And how would you stop them, though? I mean, that's the other thing is, I mean, except to say, like on shows like this where technologists listen, guys, think about this. I don't know what you would do, though. It's not going to slow anything down.
I know. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in our regulators, right? Like we still don't have a national privacy law. So I don't think anything meaningful is necessarily going to change soon. And you're also seeing like, you know, these meetings at the White House with these high level AI folks. And again, it just seems like they're hearing from the same 5 people who kind of all are saying the same thing.
Yeah. The people who are most invested in its success.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think you kind of alluded to this earlier about the existential risk thing, right? About how, you know, they say they're so afraid and they want to do this carefully and they're comparing it to nuclear weapons. And what I just keep coming back to is nobody who was afraid of nuclear weapons and was speaking up about it was mixing a vat of uranium in their backyard. So I just have a hard time with these people, right? Who are saying this stuff is going to kill us all, but trust us to build it.
Right.
Right. Like, I think we should be skeptical of that because the people who are afraid of nuclear weapons were not making them.
Right. And I don't know if you saw the movie Oppenheimer, but as soon as Oppenheimer started to raise that issue and said, you know, we should never make a hydrogen bomb, he was ostracized. He was basically kicked out of the whole thing, and Edward Teller got to go ahead with his super bomb because that's not how it works. And
you know, it didn't help that there was a big open letter pushed by Elon Musk's asking for the regulation of AI and for us to slow down and put a moratorium on development at the same time that he was spending $100 million building up an AI competitor.
He wanted everybody to stop, but he was going to go ahead with his. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was like if you were in a race and you jumped out to an early lead and then said, "Oh no, everybody, no one else can run now. Everybody stop. Let's slow down. You guys behind us, slow down."
Yeah.
Give me a chance to catch up. Is right. Exactly. Is what that was. I think we should be really skeptical of this, even though they use these fancy words like existential risk, and they say they want to be careful, and that you hear Sam Altman saying that he's afraid, but he's also just one of the most ambitious people I've ever studied and sort of followed the company of. So I think that we just can't let them set the rules just because they say they're scared.
He's another Elon Musk, frankly, and just as unpredictable and scary. And even if everybody in the West stopped AI development, China's not going to slow down. So
yeah,
it's not going to slow down. You
guys go ahead and slow down, U.S. We'll take it from here.
Yeah. But I think the real issue is that I don't think the existential risk is, as science fiction is portrayed, the machines will take over and we'll just be pets. I think the existential risk is somewhat like the risk the smartphone created, which is this becomes such an addictive product that it's hazardous to our health. Not that they're going to take over the world. This is that we're going to be, it's come straight out of Wall-E. We'll be riding around in our little elevated coaches with our giant Slurpees.
Yeah, or that it'll make our jobs miserable, right? And make us even more disengaged from other people, right?
Exactly.
Like the biggest complaint that I've gotten when I talk to workers who are being affected by new technology is that they feel dehumanized, right? Like they have less time to spend taking care of other people, right? Whether that's customer service or healthcare workers or all sorts of people. It's just that they want to be paid more and they want more time. And I think that's what I worry about the most. Is not that it necessarily eliminating jobs, but making them even worse.
Making them bad.
Yeah.
We have Boston, LA, Rome, and Silicon Valley in the house talking tech for This Week in Tech this week. Great to have all of you here. We'll have more in just a bit. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Little shout out to the people at your job and my business that do the employee hiring. That is a tough job. From small business owners going to job fairs to HR directors, vetting hundreds of applications. It is the toughest job, and it's also probably the most important job in a company because companies are made of people. The people you hire can turn your company around. They can also drag you down. Well, let me tell you, there is a way to find the right person fast and easy. There's something that can make your whole hiring process better. It's ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. How do I know? That's how we do it. That's what we use. And I can tell you, I know from personal experience sitting down at breakfast with Lisa, our CEO, and she says, the reason she's having breakfast with me is she's also my wife. But anyway, don't get distracted by that. We're sitting down at breakfast and Lisa's saying, "Oh man, somebody just handed in their notice. They've got to be relocated. What are we going to do?" And it's hard because she knows she's going to have to work twice as hard to fill that position, to get that job done. It's depressing. But then I watch her go to ZipRecruiter and post that job. Instead of doing all the groundwork herself, ZipRecruiter does it for her for a couple of reasons. First thing, once you post your job on ZipRecruiter, it sends it to over 100 job sites. So you're going to cast the widest net. It's much more likely you're going to reach that perfect person, right? Because you're going wherever job hunters are. But then there's another thing ZipRecruiter does that's super cool. They have many, many people go to ZipRecruiter looking for work. They have more than 1 million current resumes on file. So they use their powerful technology to scan those resumes, to match those resumes to your job requirements. Then they send you a list of people who are perfect for that job. Now it's up to you. You manually examine those and pick the ones you like and invite them to apply. And I could tell you, Lisa will sit there. She go, "Oh, here's a good one. Oh, here's a great one." And you invite them to apply. When you invite somebody to apply to a job, they're flattered, right? Wouldn't you be? They go, "Oh, that's great. They want me." It is the way you can get ahead of the line. You know, there's a lot of people out there trying to hire the right person. You find the right person, I guarantee you there's other companies saying, hey, come to work for us, come to work for us. So if you make the invite, if you say, hey, we're interested in you, they're much more likely to come to you, to apply for that job, to take the interview, to do it. You're going to get those great matches. Somebody perfect for your job. ZipRecruiter has helped make hiring faster and easier for our businesses and businesses of all sizes. 3.8 million businesses, in fact, have used ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs, and we're one of them. Love ZipRecruiter. So it takes the pain out of, having to fill a position, or if you're expanding, God bless you, expanding and hiring more people. Hiring heroes, you know who you are. Let ZipRecruiter make your job easier. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For us, it's often within the first hour. See for yourself. Our special web address to try ZipRecruiter for free. Please use this so they know you saw it here. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter. The smartest way to hire. Thank you, ZipRecruiter, for supporting our show this week in tech. Enough AI. I don't want to talk about AI anymore. Let's do some other stories.
Was that your Italian?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. That was just me. I don't know what that was. Sometimes a voice comes out of my mouth. Maybe it was Brew. I don't know.
It was the gladiator from the Roman Empire.
Gladiator. When we were in Rome, we watched 2 movies. We watched Gladiator. Because I know, stupid, right? And
what was it? Maximus Decimus Meridius?
Yeah, Stupidus. Yeah, I know, stupidus. And then we watched Roman Holiday with Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck. And it was fun to see the 1950s, see the Trevi Fountain in the 1950s, when there's nobody there. When we saw it, there was like 1 million people there. It was really crowded. But we threw our 3 coins in the fountain, and we drank. So
next time you come here, September, October.
Yes.
This is the time to come. It is
right
cooled down.
Yeah.
So fewer tourists. It's actually quite nice.
I bought a book when we got back that was about Rome during COVID, when there was no one around, and some photographer snuck around and took pictures of all these places empty. And I thought, I wish I had done that. I wish I had gone out with my camera and just taken video. I could have taken some great B-roll of empty streets. I wish you had too. But you have no interest in the Roman Empire. You do not think of the Roman Empire every day. No, I can tell.
No.
FTC has dropped the other shoe. They are suing Amazon. Lena Khan, who has been all along very adamant that Amazon was an illegal monopoly, has finally sued, saying the retailer illegally wields monopoly power that keeps prices artificially high, locks sellers into its platform, and harms its rival. The suit filed in federal court this week marks a milestone, according to the Wall Street Journal, in Biden's aggressive approach to enforcing antitrust laws. She actually wrote in the Yale Law Journal when she was a student in 2017 that Amazon needed to be curbed. So we knew this was coming. Amazon, of course, says, what? What you talking about? They said the FTC was wrong on the facts and wrong on the law. And just wrong. Sellers on Amazon were compelled to use its logistics service if they want their goods to appear in Amazon Prime. That tying, according to the FTC, illegally restricts sellers' choices and reduces product selection available to Amazon's rivals. There's a whole bunch of stuff Amazon's doing to exploit its monopoly power. You agree, Louise?
Well, I think it's really interesting because on one hand, there are a couple of things that made this case, I think, sort of an inevitability. One of them is that, as I'm sure you guys know, Amazon searches the prices of products on other websites and requires that you offer the lowest price on Amazon. So that to me is just like fishy, right? But they do that, but at the same time, their fees for sellers have been going up and up and up throughout the years. And now sellers not only have to pay all these fees just to use Amazon Prime, but they also have to pay for advertising. It's really hard to be an Amazon seller now if you're not also, in those sponsored results, right? Like you're not doing some sort of advertising. So now it's like, I think the average is like over 30% that Amazon is taking, out of your profits if you're selling spatulas on there or whatever. But if you're like, okay, well, sure, we'll do that on Amazon. But if people want to use our website, they can get it for 30% less. Amazon will ding them. Right. So like you can see the case, right? It kind of like writes itself. Lena got famous criticizing Amazon, but I think some average Joe on the street can see the problem with that.
It's also hard though to think of what the remedy would be. The FTC says it wants a court order that would, quote, prohibit Amazon from engaging in its unlawful conduct, and pry loose Amazon's monopolistic control to restore competition. But what is that? The lawsuit says the agency might seek structural relief, which usually means a breakup or a forced sale of parts of its business. But at this point, the FTC has not said what they're going to pursue. And this is a problem, frankly, with the lawsuits against Google, lawsuits against Apple. It's hard to think of a remedy. These companies are now so big and so powerful and so intertwined. It's hard to think of a remedy that wouldn't be draconian.
Right. Well, and I think the other sort of irony is that as this case was being filed for an entire year now, the number one app in the US app stores has been Temu, right? Which is the Chinese, e-commerce platform that's owned by Pinduoduo. And they're huge, right? They have like 40 million monthly active users in the US and they're killing it, right? So it's like nothing's been done. This lawsuit just got filed. And yet, Temu is super popular. They're doing a very, very small fraction of Amazon's sales, but hey, people are shopping on this website that's not Amazon and that has a lot of similar Amazon products, same sellers from China, right? Or they're going to Shein, right? If they want to buy, fast fashion, another really popular site that has a really popular app in the US. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah. It's like on one hand, I can sort of see the problems with Amazon, talk to so many sellers who feel like they're getting squeezed. They're having a really hard time on there. But hey, these Chinese platforms came out of nowhere. They were able to, get into the US market and find success. So that sort of kind of indicates that, Amazon doesn't control the whole market, right? Like they didn't do anything to stop that from happening.
Well, and most of the businesses suffering the harms the FTC talks about are Chinese. And so if they could go to Alibaba or Shein or Temu, yeah, it does. It kind of undermines the case. Do you buy stuff at Shein?
I don't. I think it's a little bit younger demographic. I have before, and I will say that the quality, I think it's not any worse necessarily than like a Zara or an H&M.
The same. You're getting
we're talking about the same factories. Yeah, exactly. And I reported the other day, this was a shocking number to me, even though I follow this space really closely. Temu has been downloaded 100 million times in the US.
Wow.
So, that's like almost 1 in 3 Americans have downloaded this app. So I don't know. I just think there is sort of this disconnect with the FTC being like, now is the time, Amazon has to be, taken down. Something has to happen. And yet 1 in 3 Americans are like, yeah, I'm willing to try something else.
And this is even with more traditional competitors out there. Walmart's e-commerce has been growing hand over fist.
I think Amazon has always seen Walmart as enemy number one, and Walmart's always sees Amazon as enemy number one.
Well, remember when everybody was complaining about Walmart and going, "Oh, we're going to put the mom and pops out of business," and now we're worried about Amazon putting Walmart out of business? That seems a little weird. And then there's, Shopify is available for a lot of these sellers. Etsy is available for a lot of these sellers if you're making crafts and trying to set an online business up. So there is a lot of other competition out there. So I don't think that the FTC wins on that point, but the idea that you do have to spend money with Amazon to advertise on Amazon, that does seem a little pushy, and maybe they'll get a settlement with the FTC and they'll stop that requirement, or they'll adjust the algorithm or whatever to reduce that. But I don't see them winning the case on an end user basis, because so many Amazon users love the 1-day shipping, the 2-day shipping that they get from Amazon Prime, and it's certainly not hurting the end user by having this alleged monopoly.
It does. Well, okay, I have never looked at Temu before, so thank you for telling me about about that, Louise. It does kind of look a little down market, from Brazilian bum cream to a sweatshirt that says "I hate fat hoes."
Oh no!
Leo, there is a rabbit hole you could go down to on Temu.
What the hell is
Temu, Banggood? It's all basically stuff that's going through Shenzhen. Everything goes through Shenzhen. So, I mean, if it's going to show up in a container, they'll put it on their site.
It's weird.
There's definitely sort of a wish aspect to it, but I will say that unlike Wish, Pinduoduo, which is the parent company of Temu, they got 800 million monthly active users in China. Like, they know what they're doing. And Leo, I can tell you why you haven't heard of it, because the way that Temu succeeded in China is that they went after the third and fourth tier cities. This is like the aunts in Wisconsin, the grandmas in Oklahoma. They know their demographic.
Temu. They know it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like my childhood babysitter DM'd me the other day on Instagram and was like, hey, can you click on this link so I can get a Temu coupon? And I was like, oh my God, it's
Louise.
happening.
What? So we used to do Alibaba, but Alibaba, you'd order something and they say it's going to come in anything from 1 week to 9 months, and it could be either one, right? But it was cheap. Somebody in our Discord says Joe says I get stuff from Temu all the time. It's the same crap you get on Amazon for half the price.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you might have to wait a week or so, but it's not.
So is that what Amazon's chief? It is their chief advantage. They have fulfillment warehouses in every state. You can often I order stuff from Amazon. It says, okay, it'll be there in an hour. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So is that really their chief advantage? Is instant gratification?
I think so.
Yeah, it seems at the moment. Yeah, and they built up their logistics network to do that, to get to that 1 day and 2 day, and that's why they invested so much in robotics and automation since 2015, I believe. That was the selling point. Get it now, so that you didn't have to run to a store and hope that they had it.
Right, to Keith's point about stopping you from driving to Walmart. Right? That was what they were thinking of. Yeah. And I think that was short-sighted with price, right? I think that was the mistake they made, is that people kind of got used to these somewhat higher prices, but now you have inflation. And I think that the demographic that Temu is going after is very price conscious. And if you can get, essentially the same stuff, because the thing with Amazon is so much of that stuff is unbranded, right? You're not getting this specific brand. It's oh, I bought it on Amazon. And so who cares if you bought it on Temu, right? That's the problem, is yeah, you need the detergent tomorrow, but you don't really need the spatula. You don't need the Halloween decorations. That stuff can wait a week.
So what you're giving is the free market defense for Amazon, which is there's a free market out there and competitors are coming along all the time, and Amazon does not have a monopoly. They might have a monopoly at the moment, but it's a very slim advantage.
It's the functional monopoly argument. It's the same thing that they used against Facebook. It's the same thing that they used against Google. It's the same thing that they used against Microsoft. I don't think it's going to see as much success here. I think the FTC will probably be able to get concessions on the fees, because Amazon fees for sellers are extremely high. They're definitely going to be able to win something on the non-organic search results, where Amazon promotes its own and they promote the pay.
Yeah, I mean, they're
probably going to be able to get concessions on reviews.
Yeah.
Right, but the structural stuff is a non-starter. Because you cannot break Amazon up. If you break Amazon up, it's not Amazon.
And these Chinese companies, I mean, you can also be xenophobic in the U.S. and say these Chinese companies are going to kill American businesses, and we can't undermine American businesses in their fight against these. Can anybody sell on Temu? Or is it?
I don't know if they allow you to just sign up. But they're working with their same supply chains in China. So they already have this big seller network, right, that they can leverage. And I think that's the thing, is that Amazon exited China, right? There's still this huge selling community there. But I think that selling community is increasingly upset with all these fees. There was a big crackdown a few years ago where they kicked off a lot of these sellers for, fake reviews and stuff like that. And they were I was just trying to get by on this cutthroat platform. So yeah, why don't I go to Temu? Why don't I go to Shein? But I do think the American businesses are going to be the ones who are lost here. Is they can't afford to pay 30% upwards to sell on Amazon. They don't have the relationship, or they don't want to sell their stuff on a Temu next to, I won't repeat that terrible message on that sweatshirt, right? So like, where do they go? I think that's the like also message that I think wins at the polls too, is like, we want to protect these small businesses who were sort of the lifeblood of Amazon, right?
But Main Street USA is so funny, because the original complaint against Amazon is you're putting all the independent booksellers out of business. That's ancient history. At this point, nobody's talking about mom and pop stores downtown.
You get rid of Amazon, what do you have left? So many of the brick and mortars have shut down.
They're gone.
They're gone. They're not.
And that was Amazon's strategy. Let's face it. It was undercutting your local retailer until they're out of business, and then raise the prices. I mean, that's classic monopolistic behavior. But they didn't anticipate the threat from China.
Except in a lot of instances, people know that they're not getting the cheapest deal on Amazon.
Oh, interesting.
They know that they could drive 15 minutes and get something cheaper from the Best Buy, but it's not worth the hassle to maybe not have it in stock, or maybe they just don't want to leave the house.
I want to support my independent bookstore, but the fifth time I went in there and they said, well, we don't have the book, but we'll order it for you.
Right.
I said, well, really, honestly, I could order it myself and have it tomorrow, so never mind.
That's the big issue that a lot of these retailers never really got, was this idea of managing their inventory to the point where you could put it on an app and say, yes, we have it in stock. Keith, get in your car, drive the 20 minutes, and we won't sell it to someone else, and then you can get it. And the pandemic helped drive that in terms of curbside pickup and all of that kind of things. But you're still taking a chance that, by the time you get to a store, they're going to be out of that one or two things that you need.
Here's Joe's example. This is an Amazon listing for, I could use these, motion sensor cabinet lights, $38. It comes from what is obviously a Chinese company, Hebo iTech, which is just kind of a random mishmash of letters. That's Amazon. Same thing. Temu, $4.28. Almost a tenth the price. Probably from the same manufacturer.
So you should buy 10 of them, because, then that really gets the
and free shipping.
That's how it works.
I think to your guys' points about like what actually can be done here, the kinds of solutions though I think would be good for consumers, right? Like even if they reduce some of these fees or change some of the ways that the marketplace works, which is, it sounds modest in comparison to a big breakup, but it sucks right now to like search for something on Amazon. Like you have to go by all these ads. It's like confusing to figure out what you're looking at. Like, we've seen sort of the same thing with Google, but I think it's easier to navigate like Google results and know what's sponsored.
But in
than
both cases, it's Cory Doctorow's shitification, isn't it? They're really going for the money at this point. They used to be consumer-centric.
I don't know why Amazon even includes reviews anymore. Yeah. I mean, you can't trust anything that isn't any review on any product.
I got to point out, I've never been to Temu. They really know how to make a front page. I mean, the variety and weirdness of the products just keeps you scrolling.
It's like Wish.
It is bizarre. I mean, some of this stuff I don't even want to read out loud, but it's bizarre. Here's a skull and letterprint pullover sweatshirt that says, "No, you hang up." I don't know what that means.
Well, isn't some of that the
do
English
I need
language
a nose scraper? Though? I don't know. Maybe I do need a nose scraper. Look at this silicone nose brush. I need that. I don't know what. And by the way, that's an exact clone of the Apple $450 Apple headphones for $9.48, and then there's an exact clone of an Apple Watch for $5. I mean, but it's not. When you get it, it's not going to be an Apple Watch. But I guess they can make everything now in Shenzhen. Is this random? No. This is like they've carefully planned this to be a perfect. I mean, you can't stop scrolling. In fact, let's just stop doing the show for a while and look at the front page of Temu.
Leo, I'm actually worried that you're on Temu now because I could see you buying so much of this junk.
Yeah, Leo, what did I unleash? I'm very sorry. This wasn't my intention. But you're not alone. I will tell you, you are not alone.
But it's just weird. It's like the back of a comic book and the front window of your Main Street drugstore, and in a
flea market.
In a flea market.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a blinds cleaning brush. That is definitely, I need this.
Do the three of you miss the old brick and mortar where you didn't know what you wanted to buy, but you would go to
this is what this is like.
Beyond or
this
Fry's
is exactly
and just
what this
walk
is like.
the aisles.
Yeah,
because that's what this is.
I miss that completely.
This is total serendipity, right? Just anything and everything, and they keep you scrolling by being weird. Oh, I need chicken scissors. Okay.
I don't miss the big box store. I don't miss the Bed Bath & Beyond because I was kind of it was never a great experience, right?
BDSM collar handcuffs right next to a girl's t-shirt saying, "I try to be good." It's what?
It's deliberately random.
I think we've lost Leo.
Chaotic. Yeah.
I think we've lost him.
Oh no, I wasn't trying to create I should say Pinduoduo is a notoriously cutthroat company in China and not necessarily any better than Amazon.
But it says Temu keeps you safe.
This week in Temu. We could do this.
Wow. What a world we have entered here. Okay, thank you very much, Louise. I blame you for my my habit.
I'm going to try to bring us back on track with Robert's question about do I miss walking around a store and different things.
Yeah,
I miss the social experience of walking around a mall, for example.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to a mall lately? It is not social. You're walking in a ghost town. It's so sad.
Yeah, and you remember the days where you could walk around and you'd have a multiple number of stores that you could go in and you could get some food. You could go to the
Mrs. Fields
court.
Cookies.
I mean, I was in the days when they had arcades there and you could go play, arcade games and things like that.
KB Toys. Had to stop by KB Toys.
And it was
Spencer's.
And it was a social experiment, not experiment. It was a social thing. And now I feel bad with my kids because we all have outdoor malls now, and it's not the same thing. Right. You just drive to a specific store, and that mall culture has really gone away. And if you do go to an indoor mall, it's usually empty.
You're absolutely dating yourself by even mentioning a mall.
I know. I'm sorry.
What's a mall, Daddy? I'll never forget taking my daughter, who's now 31, but taking her when she was like 5 or 6. I said, "We're going to the record store." And she said, "What's a record?" I'm glad we have Louise here. At least we got a young person to help us navigate the Chinese shopping sites.
I got to ask this. Louise, did you ever walk into a Tower Records?
I don't know. That's a good question. I might have. I know what it is though. And as someone who grew up in New Jersey, I definitely grew up in malls.
You remember Sam Goody's, right?
Yeah.
You remember Sam Goody's.
Yes, of course. Yes, I would. And also my dad, believe it or not, owned a chain of video rental stores. So I do remember the VHS.
Oh, this is good. So your dad was in the video cassette rental business.
Oh, yeah. And so he saw an earlier predecessor to Netflix in the late 90s and was like, oh, dear God, no. And he sold them all.
Really? He was smart. He saw what was coming.
Smart.
Yeah. So that's literally how I went to college. So thank God. But yeah, it was called Super Video and it was in New Jersey in like the mid 90s.
That's fascinating. What did he do after he sold it?
He did some other things, but yeah, it was really great that he did that because
Chris Christie, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I promise. That would be very funny. I feel like I have to lead with that.
My father, Chris Christie, used to own video stores. No, I'm just making it up.
Was Super Video used in Jay and Silent Bob?
Oh,
not that I know of. If that was the case,
what was the movie? Clerks. Yeah. Wasn't that a Super Video?
If that was the name, then I don't. It might have just been a coincidence because I feel like that's a family lore that I would have been told if that was the case. But I think it's just one of those names. I feel like that era, everything had like his the logic of that time was like, give it that kind of name, right? Like make it as simple as possible. Don't make people confused about what you're doing, right? make it think they've seen it in a movie.
I love it. So we now know a piece of your history that was unknown until now.
It's true.
Thank you for distracting me from Temu. We're going to take a little
problem.
We're going to take a little break. I know what I'm
Welcome
doing
back,
tonight,
Leo.
though. Holy cow, my eyes are burning. We got a great panel, and I think we're all learning a little bit here. Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit, who is ready to perform the last rites should they become necessary. Just anytime you need it. Louise Matsakis from New Jersey and L.A. She's at Semaphore. Does a great job. There, Matsakis on the Twitter. Do you still use X.com?
Yeah, begrudgingly, but yeah.
You know who doesn't use X.com? It's CEO, but we'll talk about that next. And Keith, it's great to have you. First time ever, Keith Shaw, and he's doing great, fitting right in. Maybe that's because his podcast is called Today in Tech. Perfect. Perfect. You'll find it on YouTube. Our show today brought to you by Collide. Holy cow, security these days. I actually have a question for you, Father Robert, about security, but let me tell you, if you're a company using Okta, Okta solves one problem, which is it makes sure that only the people who have proper authentication can get into your network and use your network apps. But here's the problem. How do you know that the devices they're using, the computers they're using, their apps are secure? Because even if it's the right person, if they're on an insecure device getting into your network, well, you can see this happens all the time now. That's why you need Collide, a device trust solution for companies with Okta. Because Collide goes the extra step to ensure that if a device isn't trusted and secure, it can't log into your cloud apps. Have you noticed the last few years and really lately, the majority of data breaches and hacks you read about all have one thing in common, the employees. Now, I don't want to blame employees because they're doing the best they can, but sometimes an employee's device gets hacked. Maybe they have unpatched software on there, an old copy of Plex on their laptop, that kind of thing. Sometimes employees inadvertently leave sensitive data in an insecure place, or maybe they sync up to GitHub, these things happen, and it seems like every day a hacker breaks in using credentials they fished from an employee. How did the Microsoft signing certificates get stolen? Do you remember? The problem here, it's not your end users. I don't want to blame the end users. It's the solutions they're using that are supposed to prevent these breaches. It doesn't have to be this way. Imagine a world where only secure devices can access your cloud apps. Not just authenticate the users with Okta, but then make sure the devices are secure too. Phished credentials in this world are useless to hackers. You can manage every OS, including Linux, all from a single dashboard. And best of all, you can get employees to fix their own device security issues without creating more work for your IT team. Hey, here's the good news. You do not have to imagine this world. You can start using Collide. Take a look at this great on-demand demo they've got at collide.com/twit, KOLIDE.com/twit. Book that on-demand demo. You'll see how it works for yourself. And I think it'll be very clear why you need to have this. If you use Okta, you need Collide, KOLIDE.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support for this week in tech. It reminds me, Father Robert, and I think you're the right person because you've done a lot of enterprise IT security and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an evil mind.
I do, sometimes.
So Microsoft lost control of its signing certificates, right?
Yes.
We've been talking about that on Security Now. And I don't know if Microsoft would have even had admitted to this, except I think it was a very high-end customer who really put the screws to them and said there's something wrong. And when finally Microsoft explained what was going on, they explained in great detail, which I give them credit for. They say it was a China-based threat actor, Storm 0558, they were very clear and very detailed about how they got the key. But here's the problem. This happened back in, Microsoft disclosed in July, but it happened when? In April.
Yeah.
Of 2021.
Yep.
So, 2 years later, 2+ years later, Microsoft explains how Storm 0558 acquired a key to forge tokens for OWA, the Microsoft accounts, and Outlook.com. So for 2 years, a Chinese threat actor could make as many certificates as they want, right? That would be indistinguishable from a signed Microsoft certificate.
Correct. And they were able to take advantage of all of Microsoft's internal authentication processes to basically force their way into any account they wanted to, including several government-used accounts, which, of course, is a bad idea when you consider how long they had access to it.
Somebody recently, I wish I could find the article, I just read it, said, this is a problem. This is a gift that's going to keep on giving because we don't know how many certificates were forged. This could go everywhere from every Windows 11 machine to every Azure installation to every there's 1.5 billion Microsoft devices in use. We don't know how many of them have forged certificates.
Correct. This is a core Microsoft technology. So basically, if it's a Microsoft product, they could have forged authentication for it. This is worst case scenario for Microsoft. I don't know why this is not getting more coverage, because every server administrator, everyone who runs a website that uses any Microsoft services, anyone who runs a Windows computer or uses Outlook should be aware that, they should take basic precautions to reset their authentication, get a second multi-factor authentication, make sure that it's going to a secure device. All of these things are now table stakes because you cannot trust that Microsoft will be able to secure its own services.
Well, one way Microsoft could do it, but would never do this, is by revoking all those certificates.
Yeah, they could, but that would break everything. So much runs on Microsoft services. Just think of everything that's running on Azure. They would have to revoke everything. And at the same time, so that's not possible, really.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I think, honestly, even credible security experts are kind of downplaying this because it is horrific.
Yeah, this is sort of like if you kill 10 people, you're a mass murderer. If you kill 1 million people, you're a figure in history.
Yeah,
it is so all-encompassing that there's no way to put a scope on this.
I feel like the red alerts should be going off everywhere. I wanted to ask you because it seems to me like this is horrible. Is it as bad as I'm thinking?
Yes.
Is there a mitigation? Is there a way to solve this?
Absolutely. The aforementioned revocation of all certificates.
But that's not going to happen. There's no way that can happen.
That's not going to happen, right? Again, and this is the problem. It's, as an individual user, I've been able to do things that can help me to stay away from someone forging one of my authentication tokens. That's basically been me rebuilding everything. But most people are not going to do that. Most people don't even know there's a problem. This has not.
Well, that's why the word needs to get out. And so there are some things that you can do to mitigate it as an end user or as a user of Microsoft Cloud, right, or whatever. For the State Department, 60,000 U.S. State Department emails exfiltrated due to this Microsoft breach. That's the most recent headline. But it's been going on.
That's what they know about.
Yeah.
That's what they know about.
Well, that's the scariest thing is they could be sitting out there on your system and you wouldn't know because they got in legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
So-called legitimately. All right.
This is not a brute force attack. This is not a password stuffing attack. This is someone with the actual keys.
Yeah.
To everything.
So they just wander. They walk in. It's as if a master key to every house in the world was made, and now some bad guy, apparently a Chinese hacking group, has that key, and there's no door that can be protected. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it's even worse than that. It's as if someone had a master key, and they've been doing whatever they've wanted to for 2 years.
At least 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking.
So be properly scared of this. It's not a good thing. And unfortunately, as you know, the mitigation strategies for this are possible, but they're not probable.
Yeah,
they're not things that regular people are going to do.
Key revocation is even from an individual isn't even guaranteed. It's hard because a lot of this revocation doesn't even happen, as we learned from Google.
Well, think of all the devices you have that automatically sign on to the various services that you use. Now imagine suddenly you delete all of that and have to reconnect all
You
your
got to do it all again. Yeah.
Most people can't do that.
Can't do that. Yeah. Especially big companies. Okay. Just checking. Do you think that we, God, do you think that we will see just kind of an ongoing litany of breaches and exfiltration forever and ever? Amen.
This is going to be like the Experian hack, where there's going to be a bunch of strange activity that might be related to this and might not. We had it here. That storm ran over us about 8 months ago when
here
suddenly
at the Vatican.
A lot of our high level accounts, right? We were getting a lot of suspicious activity, weird logins from different parts of the world, a lot of exfiltration of information. And luckily, we've got a decent IT team here, and they shut it down immediately and changed all the credentials and basically dropped all the tokens. But again, most aren't going to do that.
I don't like doing depressing programs, but this is depressing as hell.
Yeah, way to bring us down, Father.
I mean, look, everything's okay. I'm sure that the people who hacked it are really nice people, and they just wanted access to the government emails. Everything's okay.
The good news is, as an individual, you're not a target probably, unless you, I don't know, do something the Chinese government doesn't like. You're probably not a target.
Yeah, that makes my entire organization a target.
Yeah, you're a good one. Okay. Wow. I've been waiting to have you on just to ask you these questions. We'll talk about this with Steve on security now. He's been very critical of Microsoft's handling of this. I praise them for their openness. I mean, they've been very clear about what happened and how it happened, which is good. But what I think is unclear is how they're going to fix it. And there is, as far as I can tell, there's no good way for them to fix it.
I'm waiting for the postmortem that details exactly how they discovered it and how were they able to backtrack the activity. Because that we have a general picture of what they've done, but I want to know what they knew, when they knew it, and how they found it out.
Yeah, well, and there's been speculation that Microsoft was kind of forced to reveal this because 2 years later is a lot later.
Right. Well, the State Department got involved.
Yeah, some big client, maybe. The State Department would be a pretty good one. Yeah. How the hackers obtained the consumer email signing key is kind of interesting because Microsoft finally kind of explained that the secret was and this turns out to be very frequent. You know, when you get a blue screen of death. And you get a dump of RAM of memory. A lot of times when you have a crash, there's a dump of RAM. Well, it turns out hackers know this, that often secrets are in the dump, in the memory dump. And so the signing key secrets were in a crash snapshot. Microsoft is supposed to keep those in isolated, restricted environments. But when the system crashed, the snapshot image, which included a copy of the consumer signing key. This is like the most precious thing Microsoft has, this consumer signing key. I mean, it's normally held, in a very, very safe place. But it was in the snapshot. Microsoft systems didn't notice it was in the snapshot. And then somebody moved the snapshot from the isolated network into the debugging environment, which is on the public internet. They were trying to figure out why the system crashed, but the crash dump had this information in it. And at some point, the snapshot was moved to their corporate network in April 2021, at which point the storm hackers compromised the engineer's corporate account, got the debugging environment, got the snapshot, found the consumer signing key, the holies of holies. And at that point, they don't have logs, they said, that said how they got it out of the building, but they did.
Actually, that would be a good question for you to ask Steve, because it sounds like the debug, the dump screen, bypasses any protection that you get from memory address randomization.
Right. It puts it all back together.
Have to, because otherwise it would be gibberish.
It'd be useless. Right. Yeah. So it puts it all back together and says, here.
Interesting. Okay, I've got a new vector I want to try now. Thanks, Leo. I've got a weekend project.
Well, according to a number of sources I read, this is well known among bad guys. Black hats know that these core dumps are often very valuable. My friend Miko.
Well, I mean, that's the first step to developing a 0-day, which is you want to crash the machine, because if you crash the machine, it means you're able to write somewhere in memory that has an active use.
My friend,
core dumps have always been part of it.
My friend Mikko Hakkonen, who runs F-Secure and has for decades, really, really great security researcher, tweeted a picture of the lab from 20 years ago where the signing updates to the database detection were kept. And you could see the two desktop computers on the left are locked. The one's in a cage with tamper-proof seals. And he says the room was behind 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 locked doors. That's how F-Secure kept their signatures safe. And I imagine Microsoft has something similar.
Kept it in the pizza room.
It's at a kiosk at the mall.
Well, no, I'm sure Microsoft had all of that physical security, but it didn't matter because it was in a dump, and then it got moved onto a public network. And did you see the interview? A little uncomfortable. Linda Yaccarino had at the Code Conference. Here she is getting interviewed by Julia Borston from CNBC. At first, she was a little upset. She's the CEO, the new CEO of Twitter. She was a little upset because the interview prior was Yoel Roth, the former head of trust and safety, who was not only fired by Elon Musk, but then doxxed by Elon Musk. Elon sicked his stands on him and had to move and had to hide, and it was a nasty thing. So she was a little perturbed that you guys had Yoel Roth on just before. So she was a little tense.
Tense is putting it nicely. But come on, Leo, you're burying the very best part, which is that she was talking about how great engagement is on the platform, and then she held up her phone and it was her unlocked lock screen, and you could see that X was not on her home screen, while Signal, Instagram, and Facebook were, as well as the Holy Bible app.
So just a word of warning: do not do this. She's holding up her phone, especially if you're the CEO of Twitter and there is no Twitter on your home screen.
Okay,
now,
the other thing, though, that people were not talking about as much is that you can see on like the top right there that she also has Blind, which is a platform where tech employees discuss things anonymously. And like, I bet that she is looking on there to see what ex-employees, what ex-employees are talking about, right?
I hope she's reading and not posting, right?
Right, just trying to gossip with other ex-employees on there. Yeah, I have no idea. But you have to have like an official, at that company email address in order to sign up.
Wow, that's a good catch, because I didn't see anybody else note that was Blind. Oof. All the competition. Now, it is possible this isn't her front page, that this is the second page, that the first page is one big X, I suppose.
I don't know though. I think that is the home screen.
I think it's the home screen. That people were also saying it was a little weird that she had the settings app in her dock, but I can understand that. You might hit the settings.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not so weird. It is weird that you don't have X on your phone.
It's also weird that she claims that Twitter's going to be profitable next year, which not even close. No chance in hell.
Says all the advertisers are back, baby.
No. I mean, you can do math. If you can do math based on the last public information we have from pre-Musk Twitter, you know that they did about $5 billion revenue on $1.8 billion of cost of revenue, $3.8 billion on the payroll, a debt service of $51 million for a minus $221 million total. If you look at Musk Twitter, even though they have greatly reduced the payroll and the cost of revenue, they've also decreased revenue by about 70%, which means that this year, at minimum, he's going to lose about $1.5 billion, which becomes $2 billion if you add in the $500 million in severance packages that he's now going to have to pay out. So he's going to be running in the red. He's going to be adding that debt to the already high debt service, which means within 3 years, just the service on the debt, not the cost of revenue, is going to be more than the revenue of the entire company. It's not possible. There's no mathematical way out of that.
Of course, the other way that they may be trying to be profitable is not paying rent, not paying severance, not paying anybody, anything.
That works for a while,
I guess. Yeah, until you get kicked out of the offices. Elizabeth Lopatto, good job on The Verge, taking down Walter Isaacson, who wrote the best, by the way, #1 bestseller in the country, the Elon Musk biography. A lot of people are reading it, but perhaps you should read this article before you take everything in the biography as true. She says, one way to keep Musk's myth intact is simply not to check things out. She said the big mistake Isaacson makes is taking Musk as his chief source for the book. And as we well know, Elon is not exactly the most forthright person in the world. And I think she's correct to fault Isaacson for not doing the background work, the legwork to check his assertions. He just basically publishes them intact. He already got in trouble with the issue of the Ukrainian Starlink shutdown because he said that Starlink was shut down, and then Elon said, no, we just didn't turn it on. And then Isaacson had to issue a correction and blah, blah, blah. Lopatto says, obviously, the source of all this was Musk, and Isaacson, got caught because he didn't look any deeper. Good article, recommended. I'm not going to go through all the many factual issues.
Yeah, I think what this is exposing is sort of the dirty secret about nonfiction books, that unless you've sort of dipped your toes into that world, you don't know, which is that if you would like them fact-checked, the authors often need to pay that out of their own advance. So if you want to go to that trouble, you can, but your publisher is not going to require it. And also, your book might not be edited that well, right? By your book editor necessarily. It was funny this week. A lot of sort of journalists were laughing because Julia Fox, the star of Uncut Gems and Kanye West's ex, just wrote a memoir, and she told the New Yorker, "Yeah, no one edited my book."
Oh,
and she was surprised by that, and she was like, "Yeah, I just turned it in," and they were like, "This is great," and she was like, "I realized I had to self-edit it," and yeah, that is super common. So I think even with these really high-profile books, where I'm sure this was an enormous advance, it's going to sell well. That does not mean, I always tell people, like, if you want the truth, it's like magazine articles are kind of the only thing that's like super heavily fact-checked these days, right? It's not necessarily a really fancy book is going to get that, treatment.
Didn't even the New Yorker stop doing all the deep, or maybe not? Maybe they still do the fact checking. I think
they still do have a really robust fact checking department, and a lot of the magazines do. And I think, and even at least like in the New York Times or something like that, it's going to get like lawyered, right?
Editors.
There are editors. Yeah, right. There's editing. Yeah, there's editing that happens, and they're gonna look at this stuff and sort of be careful. Whereas I don't know why. I guess it's just the decline of the publishing world, but it's not surprising to me that this happened. But it is, crazy that it's such a high profile book, and especially he's just the most covered guy, right? So all these other people are like, well, I know what actually happened here because I wrote about it at the time, or there's a video, or whatever it is,
read Semaphore if you want to know the truth.
We have editors. Yeah.
We have editors is such a low bar. It should be a low bar, but it's a high bar now.
Oh,
I know.
It's amazing how many grammatical errors you see these days, and typos, and just you can tell stuff was just filed and then spit up on the internet before anybody took a look at it. According to the EU, X is the biggest source of social media disinformation, and that's going to be a problem because the EU is going to start cracking down. EU Commission studied 6,000 posts, 4,000 user accounts across X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, focusing on 3 countries considered to be at risk due to upcoming elections and the associated threat of Russian propaganda: Slovakia, Poland, and Spain. X was #1. Congratulations, Elon. Followed by Facebook. Oddly, YouTube came last. Maybe it's just too much work.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
That is actually...
Well, it takes a while to make a video, and then...
It's too much work. It's a lot easier to tweet.
Too much work to get it uploaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot faster. You can automate it. You can send those robots out.
I think there's also a few things that X has done. I mean, one of the biggest ones that there's been so many scandals that we forgot about it, but is that, in April, Elon Musk, after that whole, kerfuffle with NPR, took off those state-sponsored labels. And I bet that's going to be an issue in the EU, right? Like some new data came out this week that showed that Chinese, Iranian, and Russian state media are getting way more engagement than they used to get on X because those labels are gone. And, Twitter used to throttle how much exposure they could get. So I think that's the kind of thing that's like pretty concrete, right? It's like they took these safeguards away. I feel like it's hard to measure like how many lies are there on one platform or another.
What time is it now, Robert, in Rome?
1:34.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. For Robert, we're making him stay up late. We will have final thoughts and a few final stories when we continue. What a great panel. The shows always go long when I really enjoy the people we've got, and we have a great panel. Louise, it's so nice to have you. Louise Matsakis, semaphore.com, a must read. I really like what they're doing there. Of course, if you are interested in tech, you must know about Today in Tech. That is Keith's YouTube channel. And you do 3 a week, and often interviews. You focus on a specific subject. Episode 89, how AI is impacting recruitment and hiring. Actually, your last episode was how to protect yourself from new security threats. So that's a good one. The AI Gold Rush, good stuff. It's an IDG podcast, IDG Tech Talk on YouTube.
It's the internet's biggest secret, Leo.
Let's.
If you can find us, you'll be amazed at our shows. But the problem is that not a lot of people find us.
We're doing everything we can to tell the world about Today in Tech on YouTube. Keith, it's great to have you. First time on the show, but not your last. It's been really great to have you on here. Our show today brought to you by Nareva. People are going home, they're working from home, but still you got people in the office. And your huddle rooms, your conference rooms, they're getting a little complicated because there's people sitting in the room, but there's also people on the phone, and it's kind of hard for them to hear. Wouldn't it be nice if you could make it easy for everybody to hear what's going on? Or how about in a large college lecture room? Or, I can go on and on. You need to know about Nareva. Nareva, N-U-R-E-V-A, meeting room audio. Look at Ask Duquesne University. Perfect example. They have 100 Nareva devices installed. One of their senior technologists said, "I can't say enough about how impressed I am. Audio has been my life's work for 30 years. I am amazed at what a Nareva mic and speaker bar will do." A lot of times when you have a conference room, you've seen it, they go to big companies, they get giant setups with lots of wiring, and specialists come in, they do all sorts of things, and it's so expensive, tens of thousands of dollars, and then that conference room, you have to constantly monitor it and tune it, and it takes a lot of manpower. All of that can be replaced with a simple Nareva mic and speaker bar using their patented microphone mist technology, which puts virtual microphones at every corner of the room. They've made another leap forward now with the introduction of their Pro Series, the HDL 310. That's for large rooms. That's the one on the right. And then on the left, the big boy, the HDL 410 for extra large rooms. Pro audio performance plus plug-and-play simplicity in the same system. Before the Nareva Pro Series, multi-component Pro AV systems used to be the only way to get pro audio performance in those really big rooms. Not anymore. Nareva continues to amaze IT pros with the Pro Series. You could check it out, an online demo. It's for a long time I've been telling the Nareva guys, you've got to put some demos online because when you hear it, it's like, wow, this really works. So you can go now to the website. You get a Nareva audio expert being heard clearly. He gets under the table. He gets behind a pillar. It doesn't matter which way he's facing. The virtual microphones are everywhere in the room. Its pickup performance other conventional systems just can't match. So let's talk about coverage. Now the 410, I said that's the big one. That'll go up 35 feet by 55 feet, just 2 mics and speaker bars. But you can install them yourselves in about 30 minutes per, right? Imagine, setting up an extra large meeting room, a lecture hall with 2 discrete wall-mounted devices that look just like sound bars. In fact, you could put up the 2, and if you've got a divisible room, you can pull the slider across. It'll automatically adjust, and you'll now have 1 in each room. so you can use them individually as well. The HDL 410 also features a unified coverage map, which processes mic pickup from the two devices simultaneously. So they act together or individually, but normally in the big room they'd act together to make a giant single mic array. Its baby brother, not so baby, the HDL 310 goes 30 feet by 30 feet, and that's just one mic and speaker bar you can easily put up yourself in about 30 minutes. With continuous auto calibration, Nareva Audio automatically and continuously adapts to the changes in the acoustic profile. Compare this to the tens of thousands of dollars and all the complexity of these fancy conference room systems from earlier times. This is the future. This is amazing. And with Nareva's console, your IT department will love this. It's a cloud-based device management platform. It takes all the pain out of things like firmware updates, calibrating rooms, changing settings, checking device status. You can do that all from your desk. You don't even have to get up. So bottom line, with the Pro Series, this new Pro Series, Nareva makes it simple to quickly and cost-effectively equip more of your spaces for remote collaboration. It's something every room needs because you've still got people calling in, right? Learn more at nareva.com/twit, NUREVA.com/TWIT. Don't give up simplicity, plug and play, and a low cost. Don't give that up because you think you need Pro AV performance. You can get Pro AV performance with Nareva. It really works. Nareva.com/twit. Go to the website and listen to the demo. It'll blow your mind. We had a fun week at TWiT. I wasn't here, so I've asked them to, our AI has created a synopsis of some of the things that happened this week on TWiT. Watch.
Some dude named Patrick Delahanty, he asked, Lou, what do you think of Rhode Island pizza? And why do people in the state like that abomination so much? That is hilarious, dude.
I want to be very clear, though. It's not pizza.
It looks like just straight up toast, dude.
It's not pizza. It's toast with tomato jam on it, right?
Previously on TWiT. Tech News Weekly.
I do a comprehensive review of the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 Plus. You're going to want to hear that next on Tech News Weekly.
Windows Weekly.
Microsoft, in a very short period of time, unleashed an unbelievable amount of software here. And it's an interesting reminder that this company is capable of that because honestly, the Windows team has been walking around like the Three Stooges for the past year, bumping into walls and smacking each other on the head. As a Windows enthusiast, it is nice to have Windows back, you know.
I think we should take a quick break while we all try to reckon with this idea that the era of a smiling Paul is upon us.
Don't get crazy. Oh my God.
This Week in Google.
When you get back from these incredible gastronomad trips, what is your guilty secret junk food back in the States?
The granddaughter and I tend to make pizza. We make bread. We do all this stuff together. So
no, you make the pizza. No. If you'd said that you go out to Pizza Hut.
I caught that too, Jeff, by the way. It was like, well, that's sort of an answer.
I'd have more respect for you, Mike. I would.
TWiT.
But no.
I'm back, baby. I'll be back all week. We have a lot of great shows ahead and some great guests. I think you'll want to tune in This Week in Google this week. We're going to have a lot of fun on TWiT. So just a little reminder. We will wrap things up. There are a few big stories. Are you excited about the Raspberry Pi 5, Father Robert?
Yes. That thing actually looks amazing. It's got the specs to actually be a mini computer versus the crippled thing that we've had up to the Raspberry.
But still $40, right? Or no, $60.
Still $40.
Oh, all right.
Yep,
okay.
60.
60?
No, you're right. You're right.
64-bit quad-core ARM Cortex A76 running at 2.4 gigahertz. You know, a few years ago, that really would have been like, wow, that's super desktop quality.
I know, right?
That's about 2 to 3 times performance, according to The Verge, of the existing 4-year-old Raspberry Pi 4. A 800 megahertz video core 7 graphics chip. We'll have to try that before we know exactly what that will do. A South Bridge, which helps the device communicate with peripherals. The RP1 South Bridge is going to really speed up peripheral performance. 2 4-lane, 1.5 gigabit MIPI transceivers. So as many as 2 cameras or 2 displays.
And actually, Tech Dino brings up my favorite new feature of the Raspberry Pi 5. It has a power switch.
What? I have to reboot my Pi by unplugging the micro USB connector. Hallelujah. You can turn it on and off. You can support 2 4K 60p HDMI displays. It's got a micro SD card slot, 2 USB 3 ports, 2 USB 2 ports, gigabit Ethernet, still on a 5-volt DC power connection via USB-C, not micro USB. So this sounds like the computer to get. Can you get it, I guess, is the question.
I mean, there's going to be a supply constraint, of course, when it first comes out. But they've done a really good job of ramping up production. They had a problem with the Raspberry 4 because so many people were doing homebrew projects when the Raspberry 4 was popular. But this, I think, because it's a higher price point and a lot of the home brewers are going to stay with the older versions, this will be more for the people who actually want to do some higher end computing.
They've got a broad range now. From the base Raspberry Pi to the 4, and it's really good what you can do. And you should get the one that's right for the job you need. And maybe that's not a Raspberry Pi. Maybe that's an Arduino. I hope people will, pick the right one so we can all get ours. Pre-orders now, shipping late this month in late October.
Yeah. Can I ask a question of Robert? Just since I'm a podcast host and I tend to do that when I ask questions too.
I insist.
Does this version with Raspberry Pi 5 bring it to a broader audience? Because it's always felt like anybody that I talk to that's really into Raspberry Pi is also into, or it's like it's a niche audience that is really, really into it. Like the old joke of like, how do you know if someone's into Raspberry Pi? Like they'll tell you. Like,
yes, and no. And what I mean is this. It will be a much bigger audience on the secondary market. So those people who are going to be taking these, putting them into cases and maybe bundling it so that it comes as a computer that you can turn on your desk. Mm-hmm. So that's where it really widens the market. But you're right. Most people who have been using Raspberries are a bit more on the geeky side. They're a bit more on the tech side. They love building things that do odd actions with stimuli. This is probably overkill for that. So most of the projects that I've used a Raspberry for, this would be way, way, way too much. Maybe I could use this for a Tor machine. Maybe I could use this as a storage server, motherboard. Maybe I could use it for my VPN. But all of the other stuff that I've got running on Raspberries here, this is way too much computer.
Well, I remember you showing us on Know How to use a Raspberry Pi for a Pi-hole. I would think this would be a great Pi-hole machine. Yeah. Is it overkill?
A Pi-hole, an access point, a VPN. So anything that requires a lot of complex computations, this is great. But like, for example, this screen, all the signage around the Courier runs on Raspberry Pis that I've installed. So I have centralized control.
Oh, that's right.
So, but I don't need a 5 for that. In fact, this is running on a Raspberry 2, I think.
Yeah, it could be a 3 or a B. Yeah. Good. This is exciting. I still want to get one. I don't need it, but I still want to get one. But you know what? So many schools use them. Maybe hold back if you're not going to use it right away. Yeah. Let's see. Supreme
Jimmy
Court.
Carter turns 99 today.
Wow. He's in hospice, but God bless him. That's amazing. Happy birthday, Jimmy Carter. One of those guys who at the time people weren't impressed by, but I think in hindsight, he put solar in 1976. He put solar panels on the White House. They had a fruit garden, a vegetable garden. He realized the importance of nuclear power. I mean, there was a lot of things that Jimmy Carter, in hindsight, was right on about. I read.
Have we ever had a former president reach 100?
Oh, I'm sure one of them old guys.
Have we?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Not recently.
Not recently. No, probably not. I mean, until recently, people didn't by the way, speaking of the Roman Empire, we were, weren't we? The average life expectancy of the Roman Empire is 28. 28.
Well, that's because they were all gladiators.
Oh, that's right.
I was gonna ask virtual Abe Lincoln if for the answer to that.
Nice callback. Force call 7 years ago.
Louise said no one wants to talk about virtual Abe Lincoln. So
the United States Supreme Court has agreed to review the horrific, obviously unconstitutional Florida and Texas social media laws, forcing social media companies to do whatever the government tells them to do. I'm hoping that the Supreme Court will see the light, but we don't know. They're going to decide those cases. They announced their docket. Apple has asked the Supreme Court to reverse the lower court ruling against them from Epic. Epic was able to convince the court of nothing except maybe that Apple should open their app store. They're going to be forced to do that in the EU. I guess they're just trying to have it not happen in the United States. That came Thursday. I do not know if the court has made a decision on that. Apple's request came a day after Epic petitioned the Supreme Court to do the same thing.
Wait, did it end up on the docket? It's not on.
I haven't seen that yet. They haven't announced it.
I don't think that one's ended up. They were
it's
saying
still good though, right?
Next year, it's still good. Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe next year. Okay. Speaking of Apple, there is a interesting development in China. Apple has listed the mobile app stores that comply with Chinese regulators' rules. Apple is missing from that list. 26 app stores operated by Tencent, Huawei, Ant Group, Baidu, Xiaomi, and Samsung all have agreed to Beijing's oversight of mobile apps. They obviously would like to keep mobile apps that talk about things like Winnie the Pooh and the Tiananmen Square uprising off the App Store. Apple has not complied. They have not yet disclosed what they would do, and it's not yet clear what will happen. I imagine they're negotiating because, as you saw Tim Cook in the UK talk about China, he was very complimentary, obviously. It's one of their big markets, plus that's where they make all their stuff.
China has really cracked down on a lot of social media people that we used to follow. Like at least a dozen of the high-profile ones, they haven't posted for months.
Yeah, I think that this specifically is that they're trying to crack down on the pipeline of because right now anyone can make an app and apply to put it in the App Store, right? And you just kind of go through this somewhat automated process. Yeah, it's interesting to see that Apple hasn't been listed here. I don't think that means that they're not necessarily going to comply, but I think one of the risks is that they would have to remove a bunch more apps, including foreign ones that they have on there. But it's definitely become just a more and more difficult place to have social media. And I think it's becoming more difficult for Apple too, to maintain this balance of trying to be there, right? It's a big market for them too, in terms of, iPhone consumption. And I think so it's tricky, right? Like they can't just leave the market the way that a lot of these other big tech companies have, not just for the production reasons, but also for the consumer reasons.
They have till the end of March to decide whether they're going to comply with the Chinese government. The Chinese government will require mobile app stores and mobile apps to submit business details to the government, presumably so they could hold the app stores accountable if apps contain content that is illegal in China. So that's going to be a showdown. We'll keep an eye on that one. And be very.
I have a good anecdote actually for you guys about this. I just got back from China and I was trying to use some of the local services there, and it's really, really difficult if you don't have a Chinese phone number. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll go get a Chinese phone number. And then I realized that there's no eSIMs in China. So my iPhone 14 doesn't work. So there's no way I can get a Chinese phone number because I can't put a SIM card in it. Right. So I was like, okay, there's no solution to this. And so I said, wait a damn minute, they're not making iPhones with SIM cards anymore. They are in China. So if you buy an iPhone 14 or an iPhone 15, there's still a SIM card slot because they want to be able to track who's buying those phone numbers, and they don't want people issuing eSIMs on the internet. But I thought that was fascinating that I didn't know there was hardware differences between the phones there and the phones you buy here now.
That's very interesting. I guess the presumption is if you have to get a SIM, that means you have to go in somewhere, show your papers, show your identification. Exactly. That SIM is tied to you, something that you don't have to do with a SIM. There's a paper trail. Very interesting. So how long were you in China, Louise?
I was in Asia for a few weeks, but I was just in China for kind of a long weekend, 5 days.
And was it for work or just for fun?
Just for fun. And it was great. I mean, I was so happy to be back, but definitely one of the only foreigners I saw in Shanghai that was maybe under the age of like 45.
Oh, you must get mobbed. I remember when I went there with my son, a fair-haired American boy. Girls would run up to him and go like hee and take pictures and run away. You must have been mobbed with your blonde hair.
No, I think that they do it more to boys, which is funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think also Shanghai is such an international city that or used to be, I should say, that I think that I was left alone. But yeah, I think out in the rural areas too, especially, that's still really common.
Yeah, we were. I think we were in Beijing, and there were a lot of visitors from the countryside, and that's probably what it was. The city people, big deal, but the girls from the backwater countryside, they'd never seen an American, so they were quickly taking pictures. Henry thought it was great. He thought, I'm a celebrity. I think we can wrap this up. Father Robert's bedtime long gone. So glad you spent the time with us, though. It's great to see you, Robert. When are you coming back to the States? Soon, I hope.
I come back in December, and I've already actually emailed Jason about post-CES, because CES this year ends on Saturday. So I could be back for a Sunday episode.
We would love that. I'll bring
all the toys.
Yeah, bring the toys. Last time you brought a lot of weird stuff back from CES. That was a lot of fun. We didn't get to talk much about Black Hat and Deaf Cup, but if there's anything of importance, we can talk about it then.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the synod. Is that a synod? What is it called?
Yeah. This is the Synod on Synodality.
Okay, that sounds a little tautological. What are they going to be? What are they going to be deciding there at the Synod on Synodality?
So, this is actually a big one. This is all about looking at the norms for how the church changes. And this is why some of the more conservative voices in the church have been so against this, because their position is, the church doesn't change. The church never changes, which, of course, is patently false. So this is all about Pope Francis reaching out to the cardinals, reaching out to the bishops, reaching out to the lay people. Remember, this is the first synod where you've got, 20% who are women, and they're voting members of the synod, where they're actually listening to them saying, what do you need the church to be for you?
Interesting. And there was some controversy. I know he created 21 new cardinals this week.
Just yesterday, two of ours, two Jesuits, but he has made, I think, more than 70% of the voting cardinals. And a lot of people are looking at that and saying he's stuffing the ballot box, but that's just how it works.
Very vigorous for a man of his age. And we're glad, because
much so.
I think he's a great leader of the Catholic Church.
His mind is there. It's just his knee. His knee is what's hurting him. That's it.
If all you lose is a knee, that ain't so bad.
Yeah.
It's great to have you, Robert. Thank you so much for being here. Louise, so did you spend a lot of time in China in the past? It sounded like you did.
Not really, but I was hoping to. And then, a few things happened the last few years, but I'm hoping to spend more time now.
Yeah, good. All right. So that's part of your beat for Semaphore?
Yeah, exactly. I've been covering TikTok, Temu now. So I have to report back, Leo, when you get your first order. Let me know.
Oh my God, I am so excited! All I'm going to do tonight is just read all the Temu stuff.
Leo, this week in Temu, I'm serious. We could so do this.
Semaphore, SEMAFOR.com for coverage of politics, business, technology, net zero, Africa, security, media. A great, I think, fantastic job. Ben and Ben put together this amazing site, and they were smart enough to hire Louise, and I think that was a good move. Really great, very much needed publication. I appreciate what you've done over there.
Thanks so much, Leo. I appreciate it.
And Keith, it's been great to meet you. Thank you for being here. Keith,
fun.
Keith Shaw is the host of Today in Tech from IDG. You can find it on YouTube, IDG Tech Talk. Listen to his podcast every day. It's nice and short.
It's much shorter than this.
Much shorter. Probably, you know what? You put 3 together in a week. It's close.
Yeah, there you go.
It's close.
You get to it.
Yeah. I have to do it all in one day, you understand? Keith, great to meet you. Thank you for coming, and come back again very soon. Really a nice Really nice panel today. We do TWiT.
We'll do.
On,
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you. On Sunday afternoons, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's 5 to 8 Eastern time. Currently, because we are still in summertime here in the U.S., we always stay now in summertime until the Sunday after Halloween to give the kids enough time to get all the sugar in them, thanks to the sugar industry who literally lobbied President Obama to make sure that we don't go back to standard time until after Halloween. Very important. So we're still on summertime, daylight saving time, and that means we have not moved compared to UTC. We are still at 2100 UTC. We'll move when we put the clocks back, but I'll explain it all then to you. It's a lot of math. 2100 UTC. Now, the reason I tell you when we do the show is because you can watch us do it live. If you want to interact with us in our Club TWiT Discord, all you have to do is go to live.twit.tv. There's a live stream there, audio and video. And, of course, if you're a member of the club, you can go in the Club TWiT Discord and chat away, and I'm watching the Club TWiT Discord, live.twit.tv. If you're not a member of Club TWiT, let me put in just a little plug, $7 a month. But I think it's the best value on the internet you get. Better yet than the Timo nose scraper. It is for $7 you get ad-free versions of all the shows, plus shows we don't put out in public, like Hands on Macintosh, Hands on Windows, the Untitled Linux Show, this Scott Wilkinson's Home Theater Geeks, all that stuff. Great events that we do in chat, including our escape room, which is coming up. John Scalzi, the sci-fi author, will join us in a chat on Thursday. There's just a lot of stuff. Access to the Discord. $7 a month. Twit.tv/clubtwit. But the best reason to do it, that warm feeling deep inside knowing you're keeping this place alive. You're helping. It really makes a big difference, your membership. So thank you in advance. Twit.tv/clubtwit. We've been doing this a long time, 18 years. And for 18 years, I've been ending the show the same way. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Another TWiT is in the can. Bye-bye.